Hello, 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 hello. Happy First Contact Day.
Yeah.
It's still First Contact Day. It's technically still First Contact Day. By a margin. By a margin. Hello, Adam. How are you doing?
I'm fine. You okay?
Very good. I'm doing quite well. I'm doing quite well, quite all right. I had the sniffles. I've had quite a big cold for about a week, but yeah, things are finally looking a little bit better. So I'm looking forward to doing this. Why are we here?
First contact, it means first contact, doesn't it? So,
Doesn't it?
Star Trek First Contact.
What is Star Trek First Contact? And why is it Star Trek First Contact Day?
Because it involves some timey-wimey stuff that goes back and has a look at how Zefram Cochrane first met alien species for the first time in Earth's history.
In registered, shall we say?
Yes. It does get retconned, doesn't it, by Enterprise?
Well, yeah. Well, it depends because I mean, even in the original series and in the Next Generation, we always knew that aliens were on our planet before. But in Star Trek First Contact, the official, registered, documented first contact between humans and aliens was established on April the 5th, 2063, 39 years from now. And Star Trek's been doing this sort of thing in fandom for, I don't know, for a while now, where they celebrate April the 5th. And you and I haven't done one of our Simpson spoilers in a while, so we figured let's talk about Star Trek First Contact specifically, and a little bit about the other Next Generation movies. So for those of you who are going to watch this and think like, oh, great, it's going to be a beer thing, we'll talk about beer a little bit here and there, but it's mostly going to be Star Trek.
Yeah.
First off, quick question. General opinion on Star Trek First Contact. You go first.
It's not the worst Star Trek film, but it's by no means the best. It's not even in the top 5.
I can sort of get behind that.
Do you
have any reasons, or?
I have lots of reasons. Time travel is any Star Trek film with time travel, you're already on the back foot. It's a downhill. It's a downhill. Oh, sorry, it's an uphill trek from there. Just yeah. And this has casting problems as well, which annoys me a lot. There's a lot of casting problems.
Okay, this should be fun because this should be fun. Okay, that's something we can tackle because I have some opinions on that. But
I'm hoping you got all of them. There's quite a few.
We'll see what you think, and we will just work through the list. We're not going to do this one with a list as we've done before. We're just going to go sort of wing it.
Yeah.
So let me first.
I've got notes just because I would have forgotten. I'd forget half the stuff.
That's good. I've got most of it in my head. I will be coughing here and there in between because I just had a big cold. But just so you know. But
you know what solves that? Barley wines.
I have barley wines somewhere, but we'll see. So first of all, my basic opinion, very short, about Star Trek First Contact is that I think it is a very well made film. I think it is a very well produced film.
Graphics is brilliant.
I think it's in terms of things like directing. Jonathan Frakes did an amazing job directing it. I like the humor. Most of the humor. Some of it is a bit hit and miss, but at the end of the day, I think it is a great generic 1990s action movie, but not a Star Trek movie. It's an action movie with a little bit of Star Trek sauce.
It's definitely a Star Trek. It's definitely a Star Trek. No. It is. Do you want to know why?
You can have three. You can, yeah.
They mentioned the Prime directives.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm in the light there. Trying to be one. It should be over here. They mentioned the Prime directives. That's most Star Trek films and series always mention the Prime directive.
Mm-hmm.
They there's an Enterprise in it. Not every Star Trek film has Enterprises in, but a lot of them do.
No, they all do.
Ooh, do they? Every single one?
Yep.
Okay.
I know which one you mean. The Voyage Home ends on the Enterprise A.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just okay. They all have. So as the Enterprise in. And also as well, I did have this in my notes. I'm trying to remember that they disobey direct order. That was the other one.
No, but that is part of like the Star Trek sauce. But I mean, in the core of what Star Trek is.
That's the core basis for every Star Trek film. It hits those 3 points.
No, I very much disagree, because when I look at what, for example, if you take a look at what The Next Generation was all about, at its core, Insurrection, Star Trek Insurrection was much more a Star Trek movie, like literally being part of what The Next Generation, what kind of stories they would tell. And First Contact is much more. I mean, we even see a take on Picard that is. Well, you could. There is a way I have in my head. This is one of the notes I have in my head. Why Picard works for First Contact, but compared to the character he is in The Next Generation, the character he is in Generations, the character he is in Insurrection, he is completely not the kind of person that he is in that we know, the Picard that we know in First Contact, like swinging on metal vines through engineering, unloading a Tommy gun, a machine rifle at Borg. The literal uncaring he has for some of these Borg drones. And you could go.
But there is a reason. There's a clear reason.
And the reason is?
He's got PTSD. This is not the Picard you recognise, because this is not Picard. It's the PTSD talking. He has. You see at the very beginning when he has the nightmares. Even what's her name? Zefram Cochrane's colleague. She comments on it.
Oh yeah, no, I agree on that part, but it's a little bit too much. There's a little bit too much of a focus on, hey, let's have Picard suddenly really focus on that PTSD, something that he's apparently been struggling with for a couple of years now, and we've never really went into it during the show or any other.
But I'm not an expert on it, but PTSD doesn't always happen immediately after the incident.
I know.
It's one of those things that can reappear further down the line.
That's a fair point. That's a very fair point. Just quickly, by the way, just so you know, opening up a beer, and something that I need to say to people who don't know you. I doubt people will really watch this because they're going to go like freaking nerds. Hey, Vanessa. Sorry, Vanessa just joined. It's a French double IPA.
Okay. Don't get many French beers. Seeing how close we are to France, we don't see much of them.
With Citra and Idaho 7.
Oh, that's a good combination.
And since you are a good Idaho 7 fanboy, I agree with you in every way, except that it just felt, compared to the almost, I'm going to go out there, almost defeated and weak Picard we see in Generations, where he's easily kicked in the face by Soren, and I know he went through a lot in that movie as well, but the contrast between the two takes is so huge, and the Picard we see in First Contact, we hardly see any part of that in The Next Generation.
But is that because it's such a poor script and Jonathan Frakes is doing the best he can with what he's been given?
Again, coming back to the point that I feel that Jonathan Frakes did an amazing directing job.
Yeah, because he was given a pile of poop.
A pile of poop is a big word, but I mean, okay, let's go, for example, to one of the things that I know many Star Trek fans have really tripped over is the depiction of the Borg in this movie. A lot of people, you might not think it, but a lot of people hate the idea of the Borg Queen.
It doesn't bother me because it goes to. They've always said from the very introduction of the Borg, it's a hive mind.
Mm-hmm.
And what does a hive have? It has a queen.
If we take the bee analogy, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. There's also plenty of examples where there is a hive mind without some sort of.
Not many. A lot of hives do have an overall queen.
That is, I suppose. But for me, I never really mind the queen. By the way, I kind of like the character, the take on it, and I think it's an interesting concept to have this sort of side.
She's still part of the collective. She's just the leader of the collective.
No, she literally says she is not part of the collective. She is the collective.
But she also says the phrase that she is Borg, and Borg is her.
She says at some point, "I am the Borg. I am the beginning, the end, the one who is many."
Yes.
So not part of the many, the one who is many.
Many, but still part of the collective. Still part. Just the top of the totem.
I always like the concept of there being something that sort of had to process as a central node that had to process all of the thoughts and process and everything that came in. But what I didn't really like is in the degree of petty emotions that they gave the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's as if they had this very unhuman villain with the Borg, and they suddenly wanted to give it a very human face that you can really hate. Which I understand for a movie.
That's not the concept. That's the pile of poop script.
Please don't hold back. Okay. Go a bit further about this pile of poop. You have some notes, I think, on why you think it's a pile of poop script.
Okay, so I started with a positive. This is a positive about the Borg in the film. Positive is I liked the beginning, the more in-depth look at how the Borg conversion happens. That isn't really addressed at all in the series of Next Generation.
Mm-hmm. Assimilation is given a really brutal. You literally see them taking bodies apart and replacing it.
Yeah, and the needle into the eye.
Yeah,
that's very effective. And again, I think that's the Jonathan Frakes aspect. I don't think that was really much of the script. I reckon the script was a very general overview, and he has made it more specific.
No clue, but that could be possible. We should have invited Jonathan Frakes along for this live
show. I know. Sure, yeah. Just call him.
He would have definitely said yes, of course.
The benefit of, I think the benefit of seeing Picard season 3 really helps this film, and I think they've done a really good job in that series to almost retroactively improve some of the concepts in the film. And especially the link between Picard and the Borg, which is dormant a lot of the time, and it's highlighted in both of those.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one more positive, and then it's all negative from here. I enjoyed the multiple DS9 nods. They talk about Deep Space 5 at the beginning, the Defiant, obviously, with Worf. And the constant.
I have some comments on that later on. Help remind me that I have some comments on Worf and the Defiant and everything.
And I love the fact that they call it a tough little ship, which is an ongoing theme within DS9.
Mm-hmm.
That they literally say it now. Just that bit, I really enjoyed.
Very funny. Can I comment on that positive? Before you go into the negative. So here's a few things about why I actually, as much as I loved seeing the Defiant, did you know that they planned on destroying the Defiant in the movie?
Yes.
And Ira Steven Behr and the producers of Deep Space Nine were not aware of this. And they heard, and they were like, that is not happening. The Defiant is a big part of our show, and you're not going to destroy it in a movie.
Yeah.
That will have, that for some reason, people who watch our show will suddenly have to hear, like, oh yeah, did you hear the Defiant got destroyed? And suddenly it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. At this point, Worf has already undergone quite a few character changes on Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
He became a slightly different person already, especially considering how we end Deep Space Nine. Here, he is back to the default stoic Worf from the Next Generation, which I understand for the movie, but I felt that really lacked understanding of the growth of the character. Did you know that the novelization, is based on the script?
No.
Novelizations
very
are
loosely based.
No. Usually, no. Actually, the people who write the novel are usually given the locked script, and they read that. And they can base on it, but sometimes, of course, during filming, because usually they want to have the novelization out with the movie. Sometimes, of course, little changes can happen, and they know this. The joke that at some point, when Riker says to him, when Picard goes, "Mr. Wolf, he could use a hand tactical." Riker walks with him and he says, you do remember how to fire a phaser. And you get that stoic Worf.
Yeah.
And Riker goes, ooh, walks off with a laugh. Did you know how he responds to the novelization?
No.
Worf looks at the panel, looks at Riker and goes, "It's the green button, right?"
That's, yeah.
And it's even in
DS9.
It's a little bit too much.
DS9 is not that humorous.
No, but it does show a little bit of growth in the character of Worf, because even though it would be too much again, it does show understanding that Worf is becoming a little bit more loose compared to what he was.
Yeah.
Thanks to the great late Benjamin Sisko, because where Picard was always walking around remembering Worf, that just like any other humanoid in the galaxy, we're all mostly really humans after all. Sisko was the one who basically told Worf, just go fuck off and be a Klingon, man. That's what you are. Stop doing all this trying to fit in with humans and be a Klingon already.
Also, as well, the process he goes with Jadzia as well, the love and loss.
Has started there. They already started dating there. They were together. So him being a little bit more loose would have made sense. But then again, then we wouldn't have gotten one of the best. Well, actually, that might be the DS9 growth, being a little bit more rebellious. We would have missed on one of the best lines Star Trek has ever given us.
That's a bit of a stretch.
Oh, come on. When he stands straight there in front of Picard, looks him down and says, "If you were any other man, I would kill you where you stand."
That's a good line. It is a good line, but it's not the best one.
Worf would have never done that. No, well, okay, not the best one, but Worf from The Next Generation wouldn't have never done that. This is the Deep Space Nine Worf.
But he's also higher in rank at that point as well, so he has a bit more leeway to say things like that.
I suppose so. So let's get down to the negative. Oh, sorry, sorry. I thought we were done. No, sorry.
No, you're right. Yeah, no, I've only got negative now. The Enterprise E, they're described as the most advanced ship in the fleet. It's held back due to Picard's crimes. Yet his intimate knowledge of the Borg is what saves the battle at the end.
And even if they were worried about Picard, they could have just said, "Hey, can somebody just maybe put Picard off somewhere and Riker take command of this fucking brilliant ship?"
It just made no sense whatsoever.
Exactly.
Who is Lieutenant Hawk? Why is he suddenly here? Why is he not Wesley Crusher?
I always think that his character is meant to be a lot more, because he is very much... Wesley wasn't part of Starfleet anymore. Wesley had already left Starfleet, and the last season... I know.
You could have brought him back easily, though.
Yeah, because suddenly, even though he left Starfleet, he was there in Nemesis. What the fuck was that all about? Exactly. But Lieutenant Hawk is actually delved in one of the novels quite a lot, where he is at one point approached by Section 31 to infiltrate something, and non-canonically, but he could be considered the first gay character on Star Trek because the novels made him gay.
Which would never have flown in the film, because that actor, Neil McDonough, has very conservative views and he won't do certain things.
And Rick Berman is a homophobe as well.
All right, okay. Also as well, Neil McDonough, he's a great bad guy. If you've ever seen TV series like Justified. He's an excellent bad guy. He's in a lot of TV series, he's in a lot of films, and he's mainly is best served as a bad guy. Another key example of the terrible casting in this film. Also, he's dubbed quite a lot throughout, which is ridiculous. I don't understand why. It's not. I rewound that and played it back a couple of times, and I thought it was just they just dubbed him in with his own voice in post production. No, it's not his voice. It's really irritating.
There were a few moments when I felt like, but here's the thing: I know Neil mostly from his work on the Arrowverse.
Yeah.
So his voice definitely felt different in this movie. Looking back at it, but I also thought like, well, this is like 20 years.
Oh yeah, he's very young. I know. He dyed his hair. He's a natural platinum blonde, and he is in everything he does. And they made him dye his hair brown for this, and I don't understand whether that is, maybe he is naturally blonde, but I've never seen him have brown. Sorry,
yeah. No, I just want to say, also can't hold a phaser rifle to save his life. There's a shot where do you remember where he's holding the phaser rifle like this? Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, it's just pointless. Also, Adam Scott as well, who's a massive Star Wars nerd, gets about 3 seconds of dialogue in the Defiant.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, actually. I thought that was really funny, but that was like, I thought that, I didn't think that, I feel something like Adam Scott being there isn't so much, it's a cameo. It's a cameo.
But it's a waste. It's a waste of a cameo. It's someone who is essentially an extra, and you've put such a comedic actor in that role. And what? Why? It's just.
I suppose it was just meant as a little blink and you miss it moment. One of the little nods that they do throughout the. I mean, not Wesley Crusher. Wil Wheaton was in Star Trek 2009. He was one of the Romulans on the Nevada.
Right. I didn't know that.
It was a blink. I'm pretty sure that he was.
I don't really like the first one's all right, but the other two are terrible. Rebooted.
I think Star Trek Beyond is actually one of the best Star Trek movies ever made.
No, it's not good. In my opinion,
yes, it is.
I've got I've terrible casting. I've got another part 2 later, but it means shooting ahead because this person's not in the beginning.
I'm quickly Googling. As it turns out, Wheaton dubbed he wasn't in it himself, but he dubbed various voices for Nero's Romulan crew. And he almost made it into the last Star Trek movie, Nemesis. Well, he actually is seen on screen, but his actual scenes were
cut.
But he has a voice cameo, so it's not like he's on screen, but he has voice cameos. Okay, so you went through some of the negatives. Let's look at a few things in terms of negative. I agree with you that now I forgot his name, but Lieutenant
Neil.
That was a waste.
Neil McDonough.
I think that if he'd gotten a little bit more, it could have been fun to have a regular character for the rest of the Star Trek movies. Somebody we could get to know as maybe not as in depth, of course, as you could get a character in the show, but it would have been very much fun to have a recognizable face again. Now, if we're going to go talk about some of the negatives, again, for me, I really feel that Picard is a little bit, I mean, even taking into account things like PTSD and processing trauma, there is, I suppose, that you could say that the Enterprise E has been out there for almost a year now, Geordi says, right? It's very possible, of course, Picard had a lot to process after the death of his brother and his nephew.
Yeah.
The loss of the Enterprise, probably a board of inquiry when these things happen.
Yeah.
Had to face his own mortality, but also having a sort of an existential crisis and realizing, I never thought family would matter to me. And now maybe it does a little bit more. So I can understand that his emotions have been changing a little bit over a year. It's just that so many of the core values of who Picard is were so extremely different in this movie. And I will be always the first one to defend, because I hated it when a lot of fans, when they watch Star Trek Picard, whether or not you like the show, kept saying, "This is not the Picard that we knew from then." Yeah, of course, it's been 30 fucking years. It's been 30 years. If you take into account the start of The Next Generation, until the end of Star Trek Picard, almost 40 years in universe. Nobody, I am not the same person I was 10 years ago. Nobody stays the same person. But I mean, we could make this all about the ship of Theseus right now. But at the core, you could think that some values would remain. Picard being so callous about shooting several of his former crew members, the one that just got assimilated, right, laying there on the deck, he shoots him. Ensign Lynch doesn't even blink, riddles him with bullets, and it's like, yeah, he was a lost cause anyway. The Picard that we would know, his core values would be to save everyone possible, and to just throw that out the airlock because of some Moby Dick vengeance. I mean, it works in the movie.
But there's a key phrase he says. Key phrase is, it would be a more of a mercy to kill them, and that's how he sees his assimilation to the Borg was worse than death, and he doesn't wish.
It's the thing, but he got back.
He did.
He did get back, and there was not a part of him that ever considered, are they really that unsavable? He says, I'm doing them a favor. And in essence, I suppose he is.
But the Borg also, at the end, the Borg Queen says that they let him go. So it's not a case of there is a complete reverse. They released him.
I am 100% with Lily on this when she said, you didn't even try. And here's the thing.
No, I really, he doesn't.
And here's the thing, and Lily was right about this one as well. He got off killing those Borg. That was pure vengeance. And no matter what happens to you with PTSD, well, no, that I can't say that because I've never experienced. That would be a false claim. But the Picard, as we know, he would not.
But he's not.
Murder.
He's a different. Yeah. He doesn't see it as murdering. I think that's what it is. I think it's his viewpoint is he sees the Borg as a virus. He doesn't see them as living things.
It's a false. There's a word for this in Dutch, and I keep forgetting it right now. There's a word for it, but it's a false reasoning, basically, because again, he doesn't actually know if they can be saved. You have to realize the following.
His fault. He's at fault. I'm not saying he's not at fault, but I'm saying that's his what's coming over in his mind.
But up to this point, they had three encounters with the Borg. They had not only four. They had, and here's where it gets interesting. The first encounter with the Borg, thanks to Q, there was the best of both worlds. There was Borg. And there was Descent, the one with those liberated drones. Of those four stories, in The Next Generation, 3 dealt with Borg being liberated from the collective. How does he know it's not possible to save assimilated drones?
I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying he thinks it's not possible. That's in his mind.
But the intelligent man that Picard is, and that we see through the rest of
and he shows his intelligence. He shows his intelligence with how he kills the Borg using holographic bullets. That's probably the most ingenious way of killing the Borg that's ever been on screen.
And that's where, because the loss of the Enterprise D. And that's something. That's, by the way, something that I also feel that Star Trek Picard, especially in season 3, shows us very beautiful. The Enterprise D meant a lot to him because he changed as a person there to a degree where he finally let people into his life. He made friends. They weren't just officers. They became friends. He dealt with a lot. The place meant a lot to him. The scene in the lounge, in the observation lounge, where in his rage, he destroys the bottles, and Lily standing there.
I've got a note for that.
You broke your little ships. and she's holding a part of the wreckage of the Enterprise D. And I think that's
Yeah.
the moment where so much pent up aggression, anger, guilt, fear is released, and he finally starts realizing.
So my note is for that. I said about he describes them as more evolved than Lily's time period, and then proceeds to have a tantrum like a baby.
Which,
and also he says about revenge being a attribute of being less evolved within Klingon culture. Revenge is quite is entrenched. Does that mean that he's saying that Klingons are less evolved?
yeah, he's being very judgmental.
Yeah,
he's being incredibly judgmental, and maybe that's why he has difficulties there, because he's being very judgmental about what in his point of view those primitive humans were like, and he's realizing at his core that he's acting just like them.
Yeah. The other thing as well I thought about was he says the line he obviously saying how callous he is. The line where he says, "Fire on the crew, you'll be doing them a favor," showing that he would have rather died than be brought back after being a Borg.
That's maybe that is the biggest reason for him wanting to executing them like that.
Yeah.
He never got over the things that he did.
Nope.
And if you remember his first confrontation with Sisko in Emissary, is when Sisko confronts him with the fact that even though, if you really look at it, Picard was never guilty, it's never something he did.
Yeah.
In his point of view, he is responsible for the death
of
11,000 people.
Yeah.
And he could never let that go. And that might be more of a, in his head, in his guilt, in his PTSD kind of thinking. I could see that more of a reasoning for him wanting to say it's okay to kill people. But yeah.
I also as well, I noticed as well when they were running away, him and Lily were running away from the Borg. He advised that they'll ignore us until they consider us a threat. How is an armed enemy and a former Borg not a threat when he's right there? That made no sense whatsoever.
And here's what gets interesting, and that's another fault in the writing. If the Queen is aware of what the Borg are seeing,
yeah,
and she knows who that is,
yeah,
I mean, literally the first moment, even before any of this was thought up, Hugh in I, Borg.
Yeah.
Picard walks in, and there's this Borg drone immediately going, "Look, Hughes." Right? They should have recognized him.
Yeah.
They should
or at least not said anything and considered him a threat as soon as he appeared.
Yeah.
It's lazy writing. There's a lot of lazy writing in this.
Again, this is why it's a good generic action movie, but it's not, because I consider Star Trek at its height to be quite intelligent.
Yes.
We talked about this off camera. Why do I consider the motion picture is classic the original series? And I can understand why some people find it a little bit boring, especially since the movie really tried to be like 2009 Space Odyssey, which I think is one of the best movies ever made, but it is also a very slow movie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go up one. I think that what every Star Trek fan always claims to be the best Star Trek movie ever, Wrath of Khan, same difference. It's a fun action movie, but it's not Star Trek.
No, it is. It's the original series turned up to 11.
No.
Yeah.
It's not. Star Trek to me is things like where Star Trek tries to get philosophical, where Star Trek tries to, touch upon subjects. I will consider it classical TOS, but more TOS like when TOS got a little bit more action, comedy, vibey, whatever. But when the original series did like the in-depth reflective stuff that it was very good at. That's what I love about, and here we go, the motion picture, The Undiscovered Country, and if I look at Insurrection, and let me first say the following: as a movie, Insurrection is a worse movie than First Contact is. Just on a whole.
Ooh.
No, on a whole, as in production, directing, writing.
It's got a worse villain. I'll admit that.
Yeah, but who's the villain in Insurrection?
It's Picard's clone. That's the answer. That is the answer.
That's Nemesis. That's Nemesis.
Oh, that's Nemesis. Yeah, sorry.
Insurrection is the one with the Sona and the Baku.
No, yeah, there isn't really a.
No, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. At its core, that dilemma. I mean, Star Trek: The Next Generation had several episodes that dealt with similar things. It's really, so many fans say that if Insurrection was a double episode of The Next Generation, it would have fit right in. It might have been one of the best double episodes ever, but it would have been one of the best. It would fit right in. It's Star Trek. The thing is, though, the things that make it kind of suck, some of the worst humor ever in Star Trek. Deanna and Troy talking about how their boobs have perked up. Klingons with zits. It has some very bad humor in it that is just, it doesn't feel. It feels more like an American Pie movie than it's. But at the core, it's very much more The Next Generation than First Contact is. First Contact is just, it has Star Trek elements, but I don't think it's Star Trek at its core.
See, for me, I always, everyone shits on Generations, but it's actually one of my favorites. I don't know if it's my favorite, but that and Undiscovered Country is the better ones.
I love Generations. I haven't seen it in ages. I might actually put it on tomorrow because you can tell it's not perfect.
No.
It has, first of all, it has an amazing score. The soundtrack is beautiful. What they did in terms of camera,
got a good villain. You want a megalomaniac villain?
I suppose. At least his acting is amazing. I mean, you can always call on Malcolm McDowell. McDowell. No, that's not what it is. That's not who he is. McDowell.
Yeah, Malcolm McDowell.
Is that how you pronounce it? Okay. What they did with the sets of The Next Generation, because they were literally, with a few adaptations, they changed the bridge around a little bit. But look at how incredibly cinematic the sets looked with the lighting they used. They did some great work on that movie. Giving Brent Spiner a wonderful chance to work with emotions in a way that he hasn't done in all of The Next Generation.
And he does in this film as well.
Even better, maybe.
Yeah, there's some funny bits though. He's the funniest in the film, I think. His humour lands more than the rest.
Brent Spiner has a great sense of humor and great comedic timing. He has a great joke in Insurrection where he's talking about how he's missing several memory engrams. And then the moment he says it, Geordi opens his hands and there are the chips, right? The memory engrams. And he's literally the line goes like, he's in restraints and he's standing there like, I seem to be missing several memory engrams. There they are. He's got great comedic timing.
Yeah.
So I think that was something he did great. But yeah, you probably have the worst list.
It also as well, does this film show the first time he's working outside of his programming at the very beginning, where he immediately, when they talk about defying Starfleet's orders, he's one of the first to jump on it.
Mm-hmm.
When they get invaded by the Borg, in the timeline, is this the first appearance of the EMS?
The what?
First time the Doctor, the emergency medical.
EMH. No, because the movie is set in 2373 and Voyager starts in 2371.
Okay, I wasn't sure whether this. jump was slightly earlier than Voyager.
No, because Voyager still has the Deep Space Nine uniforms, remember, and these have the new style uniforms that were introduced in halfway through season
Okay.
5 of Deep Space. Sorry, I'm a fucking nerd.
I know. I couldn't. So, and also, Borg spheres, can they time travel, but Borg cubes can't?
I think the idea wasn't so much that Borg cubes could, but the sphere was uniquely equipped, as in it was the only. I think the idea was always to have the cube do the time traveling, but here's where the kicker comes. And one of the novels touches up on this. The Borg are not capable of original thought. They assimilate, they gather, and they gather information, and that's it. For them to hatch a plan to travel through time.
But is that not the Queen's doing? And that's where we have that.
I know, but that's if the Borg were like that, they would have done so before, and they would. And this is again why, by the way,
I did say that.
Star Trek and time travel. As soon as you introduce time, I mean, there's a few instances where we know that using time travel makes for great Star Trek, but most of the time it just creates way too overcomplicated stories that as soon as you start to think about it a little bit, you just sit there going like, this doesn't make sense.
And also as well, where is the Temporal Commission or the Temporal Bureau? The effect of the Temporal Wars, where are they? They don't turn up at any point, when the Borg is slowly destroying history.
They this is a huge part of the novels.
Okay.
This is a huge part of the novels, and they were told they wanted to arrest Picard.
At the end?
Well, this wasn't part of the movies, but in the novels at some point, Dahmer and Luxley, the ones we see in Deep Space Nine, they want to arrest Picard for what he did. And they are told by time agents, basically time cops from the future, to not get involved and let it be. The same thing, well, partially. The same thing mostly goes for when Janeway comes back with Voyager and all of the future tech, and that she used future tech to cripple the Borg. If the Borg were not stopped when Janeway did, and these events are slightly connected to that, the Borg would have overrun the Alpha Quadrant by the end of the 25th century.
I don't think we also, for the Temporal War, we never find out who are the factions, do we?
Yeah, the book again. Some of the novels go into that. The novels are non-canon, by the way. So
yeah,
the novels. It's not like with the old Star Wars novels, where at some point all Star Wars was canon.
Where canon, yeah.
Yeah, and then Disney bought it, and that got changed. But the Star Trek novels have never been canon. But in any way, the Borg time traveling is just silly.
I'm going to leave you this one while I go and grab a beer. Is this the first mention of quantum torpedoes instead of photon torpedoes?
Yes, and I have a thought on that, but I'm going to wait until
I'll be back in a second.
That's okay. I don't know if people. I mean, we hardly have any viewers, and that's fine because this is all for our enjoyment. If there are people watching and you want to chime in on us talking about Star Trek First Contact, I mean, please do. I mean, it's not like we have anything better to do. So yeah, I'm just quickly checking up and see if I got any messages everywhere. Waiting for Adam to come back. So yeah, for anybody who's watching, by the way, if you're disappointed that this is not, in fact, about beer, I might do a beer-related stream this weekend. I might find some time for it, but we'll see. So this is the first time that we hear about quantum torpedoes. What are you drinking, by the way?
So I was hoping Matt would be on for this one because it's an American beer. It's going to be really hard to see with my lighting and the color of the can. So I'm going to try and do something where I can actually block the light.
Is it? Other half.
Yeah, but
Interesting.
but they're the collaboration brewery.
With
Parish, and this is Ghost Diamonds.
double IPA.
It is, I believe.
I think about 95% of all beers coming out of the States these days are no. That's bullshit. That's actually more Europe these days.
It doesn't actually say. It doesn't actually say.
Sometimes it doesn't say ABV on the can. What was it called again?
Ghost Diamonds.
Let me just quickly, because I have my other phone here, so I can quickly check on.
I've got mine because I have my notes on it. It's a re-release.
So if I go Ghost Diamonds, Parish Brewing Co.
Yeah, it's
in
the
collaboration
2020.
with. Yeah, it's an 8.5% double ABV.
Yeah, 8%. The 2024 edition is at 8%.
So coming into the Quantum Torpedo thing, this is just me geeking out a little bit. Of course, in behind the scenes, they said what quantum torpedoes are, and they sort of build a power because they are living in a quantum state. Blah blah blah. What I loved about the quantum torpedoes, and especially during the Battle of Sector 001, is there's a few instances where we see ships flying around, and it's photon torpedoes being fired, and it's pew pew pew, and then the Enterprise passes by and fires those quantum torpedoes. Just poof, poof. Sound effect wise, again, this is one of the things that I loved about this movie. Sound effect wise and special effects wise, it did a lot of great things. But that powerful blasting of those quantum torpedoes. But this was the first time that, as far as I know quantum torpedoes were mentioned once or twice in Deep Space Nine.
But I think that was during the Dominion War.
That's what I can't remember when they were first mentioned.
I'm sure.
Probably.
I'm sure it's a Chief O'Brien line as well.
God damn it! Part of me wants to Google it right now. Googling right now.
Deep Space Nine was the most recent series I've watched, which is why it struck a chord with me.
Let me quickly Google quantum torpedo.
I just want to mention as well, not only at 8% double IPA, it's also seemingly single hop Galaxy.
Really?
It's very nice. Yeah.
I like that.
Ooh, it's tart. Very tart on the end. Very green. Very green. How old is this beer?
Is it?
A bit of hop burn. 24th of January. Not that new.
No.
So like what? 2 months? Just over 2 months. Yeah.
So I'm just quickly. By mid. Okay, according to this, I can't remember the line. According to this, remember the season 4 episode where Sisko and
Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, Deep Space Nine, where Sisko and co go back to Earth because there was a changeling infiltration.
Yeah. With a test in the blood.
Yeah, apparently it says here that because we know that at some point it was mentioned that the USS Lakota had received a major upgrade.
Yes.
And according to this, it says that it got quantum torpedoes, but I don't remember them actually being mentioned on screen. But here's where it gets interesting. After he traveled back to... Oh, man, this is going...
Season 4 is still well after this.
According to this, the first use of the word quantum torpedo was in the episode Defiant on Deep Space Nine, when Thomas Riker stole the Defiant. But that's season 3. That's about 2 years before, because it says in 2371, after hijacking the USS Divine and taking it deep into Cardassian space, Thomas Riker utilized the ship's quantum torpedoes against a modified Keldon-class cruiser. And here it says that in the way of the warrior, Captain Sisko armed the Defiant's quantum torpedoes against. I don't think they were ever named quantum torpedoes.
I don't think it was. I remember
I
it was
don't.
mentioned in Deep Space Nine, but I'm pretty sure it was further on in the series.
But here's two instances that might work, and they are also from season 4. And season 4 was a year before First Contact, right?
Oh, right, okay.
And these two could make sense because in the episode Starship Down, where the Defiant was in that gas gas planet,
Yeah.
it says that Sisko ordered Chief O'Brien to rig the Defiant's 2 atmospheric probes with quantum torpedo warheads. Now that rings a bell.
That sounds familiar. Yeah, I knew it was the Chief O'Brien that mentioned it.
After he traveled back to Earth in 1947, Quark offered to teach Lieutenant General Denning how to make quantum torpedoes for the right price. That also rings a bell. And according to this, in the episode Dreadnought from Voyager, remember the Cardassian missile platform in the Delta Quadrant?
Yeah.
That was also a year before First Contact, and apparently it's stated that Commander Chakotay said that the missile Dreadnought's quantum torpedoes could be modified to be compatible. So apparently they were mentioned. Oh! Hey, dude.
What's going on?
We were just totally we were just totally being nerds talking about quantum torpedoes.
No, and I'm a Star Trek Next Generation purist. Like I never got too deep into like Voyager or anything like that. So, quantum torpedoes you're saying they didn't even exist until after Next Generation, right? It was always photon torpedoes,
Yeah.
right?
It was always photon torpedoes, and both Adam and I could have sworn that First Contact was the first time they were ever mentioned, but apparently they were mentioned before, but never in the Next Generation. You were completely right about that one.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's when I was I watched First Contact again last night, and while watching it, kind of deep diving on a lot of like how it was made and what they did to make it, and what ended up filtering from that movie into Deep Space Nine and Voyager and stuff like that. Like, it's pretty interesting. It's kind of like a really, I'm not sure what you guys covered as far as the movie goes, but it's pretty interesting how like that movie like helped out Deep Space Nine and Voyager like immensely.
I do not disagree, because even though when First Contact premiered, Deep Space Nine was midway in its 5th season, but the impact on like big ship battles and stuff like that, but also the things like threats to the Federation became a huge part of Deep Space Nine, really from that moment on. Matt, here's a quick question.
Well,
because we already talked about that. What are your general thoughts, your general feelings, your opinion on Star Trek First Contact?
I'll go straight up 0. Through a bad phone area here, so hopefully you can hear me. Give me a sec.
You just got better again.
1 sec. Sorry about that. I went through a little valley here while driving.
That's okay.
I think it's by far and away the best Star Trek movie ever made. I like it better than every other one. Why, you guys don't like it, or?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I love the movie, and I think it's especially when you look at like production values and the way it was directed, the way it was acted, the way it was made, the way it was everything put together. It is one of the best Star Trek movies ever. I just feel that at its core, it's not a real Star Trek movie.
It is. It's just a crap script. The script's just crap.
Why isn't it a Star Trek movie? I'm curious, because I might agree with you. Why?
I feel that it's very much a huge, like almost like a huge Hollywood action movie. But I'm looking at, especially if you look at what the Next Generation is all about, even though it is in so many ways a worse movie, Insurrection, the following movie in the line, is more Star Trek, especially The Next Generation, at its core, the kind of story it's trying to tell, than First Contact is.
No, and I agree. And I think where I was going with this is probably exactly what you're thinking, which is, I think as a movie goes, as far as a Star Trek movie goes, or just a movie in general, I think it just from the acting to the cast. Dude, you look at this movie, everybody in First Contact is in the best shape of their fucking lives. Like, Picard is yoked. Fucking Riker doesn't have any pudge to him. Like, everybody's in really amazing shape. Everybody's fucking, like, looks awesome. You know what I mean? Like, but at its core, Next Generation, for Star Trek as a whole, but Next Generation it's not about being a military ship. It's all about exploration and loving life and finding new species. This is like, it's all about, like, just, we gotta kill the fucking Borg, and this is a military mission. So even, like, they speak about it, if you deep dive on, like, the designing of the movie, they made the new Enterprise look a little bit more menacing. They made the decks
a bit sleeker.
They made more sleeker and more militaristic. You know what I mean, to a certain extent. But you know, some of the old Star Trek movies I like, but I like them because I'm nostalgic to a certain extent. Like, I think the original motion picture is pretty craptastic of a movie. I have a soft spot for Voyage Home. You know what I mean? Wrath of Khan, everybody thinks
Voyage Home.
It is what it is. But for this movie, in and of itself, the cinematography, the way it was colored, everything about it, the way it was edited, and I don't know if you guys talked about it, how hot the Borg Queen was. Like, she's sexy.
No, I agree. I wanted to get to that. Alice Krige was, oh my God.
It was that was like, if you argue against that portion show, like them having a Borg Queen, even though the Borg is, not supposed to have any kind of individual thing, whatever, she's mad sexy, while also disturbingly creepy, which is there's something amazing about pulling that off. I'm blown away by the movie's campy enough. It's weird. There's whatever going on, but the fact that Jonathan Frakes pulled that fucking movie off with little zero fucking experience. Sure, he directed fucking episodes of Star Trek. That's way different than like a $40 million budget fucking movie.
Yeah,
totally agreed.
Insane.
Which is why, by the way, getting back to your point now, Matt, and then, sorry, Adam, I'm interrupting you, and then I'll let you, because I know you wanted to say something, but I think if there's somebody that hasn't seen any or not a lot of Star Trek, and you sit them down with First Contact, they're going to be highly entertained. If you sit them down with The Search for Spock, or Star Trek Insurrection, or The Final Frontier, they're just not going to get it.
No, and that was purposeful. They make it. I think they pulled it off to a greater extent. Is that they wanted a movie that could appease fan service while at the same time being its own entity. You know what I mean? That's like why the whole beginning, the opening shot is Picard having that nightmare about the Borg. If you don't include that, people don't understand why.
Yeah.
So he's in tune and terrified with the Borg.
100%.
They had like a 15-minute intro sequence that was completely not. It was a whole nother thing. But they're like, yeah, we can't do that. It's like too much. So that's why they had that beginning part. It was very smartly done.
Agreed. It was beautifully done. Adam, you wanted to say?
Yeah, no, I still think it's. I just think Jonathan Frakes did a really good job. I agree. I just think the dialogue and the dialogue is very clunky. I know a lot of Star Trek films, they do have clunky dialogue, but I think in comparison to what they do in the rest of the film, it just seems very clunky.
There were definitely a few moments that stood out as being a little more, I don't know. Okay, here's the thing. How do you guys feel about the drunk Deanna scene?
I do not believe. Sorry.
Yeah, you're gonna say what I'm gonna say, so you go ahead, because I'm gonna repeat what you
I do not believe that she does not know what tequila is.
Right?
Mm-hmm. She's never been drunk before in her life. She doesn't know what it's like. It's like if you ever see somebody that's smoking a cigarette in a movie or TV, and you're like, yeah, that person's never smoked a cigarette in their fucking life. That's her.
But they've been on Romulan ale before, and I'm like,
Exactly.
they'll have synth ale products that will definitely be tequila-esque or have the name tequila. It's unbelievable.
Literally that. It's one of those scenes that just stood out a little bit. As in, it was a funny scene. As in, I get it, and it works for the general audience. They're like, ha ha ha, here this future human doesn't know alcohol. If you know the next generation, we all know. I mean, come on, it's very much hinted at.
That's bad.
But
She was a better actress.
But it's been very much hinted at. Riker and Troy, they partied on Risa. They partied hard on Risa. It's been hinted at during the show. They went to things like Risa and Pleasure Planet. They know about. Or as Paul would like to say, Darth Kaun and Baby Spock. I have no idea what the fuck that means.
He's making fun of. He's doing the whole Star Wars, Star Trek mix jokey thing.
Probably. Didn't one Star Trek season have a full bar? Like, yeah, The Next Generation had a bar, and literally it was mentioned that Guinan had real alcohol.
Yeah.
And Troy is somebody who was going to go like, I am willing to try real alcohol.
Oh, they've had.
Yeah.
They've gotten drunk a ton of times. Don't remember the Scotty episode where he comes back from the transporter and then they get ripped. He gets ripped drunk with Picard, like.
Yeah, because he gets proper scotch.
Yeah.
So things like that didn't make sense. There were one or two other instances. Oh yeah, one of the a few of the jokes that felt a little bit forced, where Geordi goes like, "Leak, I'm not detecting any leaks."
Yeah.
Yeah.
The joke that like literally like Worf and it just almost died and just got beamed over to the Enterprise. And Riker's like, you still know how to fire phasers, right?
Oh, yeah.
We actually talked about that one. And here's one, by the way. I know that, Matt, you're not a Deep Space Nine fan, but Adam and I are. And Worf, at this point, has been living on Deep Space Nine for a year and a half or so.
Yeah.
And he changed a little bit as a person. We already see him becoming a little bit more looser, a little bit more relaxed. And here, right from the moment he gets back on the Enterprise, and maybe it's because he's with his old crew or whatever, but he immediately goes back to that very stoic, very rigid, very statuesque Klingon that he used to be. And in the novelization, we just talked about it earlier, in the novelization, and this went to another extreme, so it wouldn't have worked. Novelizations are always based on scripts that are basically locked, but things can always change a little bit during filming. Do you know how he responded to Riker in the novelization?
No.
He looks at the panel, looks back up at Riker and says, "It's the green button, right?"
That's funny.
It's a bit more of an extreme, but that character of Worf became a lot more relaxed and funny and more easygoing because, Sisko reminded him that he's a Klingon, not a human, so be a Klingon. And it just, although that joke went too far away, too over the top again, there's something we haven't talked about, and I think that was on Adam's list. Zefram Cochrane.
It's the worst casting in the world. I love James Cromwell, but he's completely wrong for this role.
I think he's fantastic in the role.
I loved him as well.
No. I think he's. I think he's too old for a start.
Too old for what?
Too old. The timeline doesn't work. How does it marry up with Enterprise?
Yeah, okay.
He's too old.
Okay, I understand what you mean.
He must have been in his late 50s when he did this. Easy.
Yeah, but what is that? Why does it matter? I'm still not computing why that matters.
There's a scene in Enterprise, Matt, the pilot of Enterprise, where we see he must have been like in his. Is Matt still there, or did he just froze?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You didn't look like you froze then.
There was There's a shot filmed in for a cameo by James Cromwell for Star Trek Enterprise, or Enterprise as it was back then. It would have meant that in timeline-wise, Zefram
We like to
Cochrane would have been around 120 when he was still making warp engines. So,
brought like the Klingons, the Vulcans when
exactly.
gave him some secret sin, helps them not age. What do you want? I don't fucking know.
I'm not too bothered with that one. I thought the casting of James Cromwell was.
Let me ask
He's
you
a brilliant actor.
Do you have a problem with the Picard TV series? Because that motherfucker's way too old to be in that shit.
Yeah, they should. Yeah, I think that's because it took them so long to make it. I think if they
Probably he had to go in bathroom breaks all the time. That's it.
Yeah.
Compartmentalize that age, that little weird thing, like the timeline doesn't match up, which I've never I don't get that too hot and bothered over those kind of things. You think he did a bad job in that role? I think he did a fantastic job.
No. He's a great actor. I just think I don't think he was right for the role. He's supposed to be this rebel, this complete, and I don't think James Cromwell never comes across like that. He's always straight laced and
I didn't
just
think of him
doesn't.
so much as a rebel. I just thought of him as honestly very much just. He came across as a self-centered bastard, and that's how I saw him.
And it works for the role. Like when he explains away like the whole thing about everybody viewed him as this magnanimous giant after the fact, like in all the textbook history that's written. He's like, I'm just like a drunk who wants to make some fucking money. He literally says that in the show. But the one cool thing, if you actually look into the background of it, like he has said, and other people have said, that his role in that is as close, if not spot on, to his actual personality in real life.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're like, that's I think he said it, and other people concurred. They're like, yeah, he's like, I didn't act in this movie. I just was myself in this movie.
And I think that one thing is very interesting here is this is how history works. When huge inventions or leaps in technology are done, we often credit one person, in this case, Zefram Cochrane. But the movie makes it quite clear it's a huge team. It's not just him. Lily was equally responsible for all the things that were done for
the engineer.
She was equally as smart as Cochrane was. It wasn't as if he's just the only one who came up with everything and she was just working for him, scrounging up titanium. She was an engineer, a physicist.
I don't know. They don't explain that. Listen,
right at the beginning.
I'm not dismissing her talent, but she's so in awe.
He has definitely froze now.
Man, you froze for a little bit. Just give it a moment. You're getting better again. You're doing a wonderful jig.
I should be good now.
Yeah, you're good. Andy's gone again.
Yep.
She was whole show. She's really enthralled and amazed by any sort of technology. You know what I mean? Again, it's advanced technology, but it's not like she never talks about anything technical. She doesn't talk about like what she asked. She's like, "Wow,
that's a fair point."
God, like we're like
it's my first ray gun.
I'm not saying she's a laborer, but I think I don't think she's like on par with Zefram Cochrane.
But again, is that how it was originally intended, or is it just the booby script?
We'll wait. Or not. How's the beer, by the way?
Really good. Just tastes like really tart orange juice. Moonlark.
You talked about this in the.
Yeah, Hugh's a big fan of that one.
Yeah.
I've only had hazy stuff from Moonlark.
It's not as good as I hoped it would be, but it's good.
The other thing we were talking about bad lines before. I didn't get a chance to say the bit on the top of the Enterprise where they're disengaging the communications array.
If you're going to say what it is, it 2 words?
Yeah, it's terrible. Assimilate this. What? 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 It's the worst line in the film.
It was so fucking bad.
It's really bad.
It was so bad, and this is why I keep saying that. Even though I think that as a generic action movie, it works really well, and to introduce people to Star Trek, because it has a lot of Star Trek elements, but it's just not Star Trek at its core. I think it works, but my ex-girlfriend, I once mentioned. I think I once mentioned her. She became a huge Star Trek fan. Thanks to me, because I introduced her the right way. She had a boyfriend once that was also into Star Trek, and he just started dumping stuff on her and started her midway Voyager, and she was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I started her with things that I knew she would like: serialized story episodes, like Deep Space Nine. She loved the characters. We went into things like The Next Generation. We watched specific movies, and she got really into it. And she loves. I mean, I don't know if she still does, but she loved Insurrection. So she at one point wanted to introduce a friend to Star Trek. So she put on Insurrection. The friend sat there for like after the first 20 minutes going like, what am I supposed to do with this? But for me as a Next Generation fan, there's a lot to love in Insurrection, even though that one has some of the worst jokes ever. But yeah, no, First Contact to me as a whole is it's taking that is what The Wrath of Khan did wrong as well. It took an element from the original series that fans loved, the episode Space Seed, used a actor with a character that, well, I don't think he was a great actor. People keep saying he was so amazing, but he wasn't.
He's very over the top.
It was all about his chest and everything. We're supposed to have a genius, a military strategic genius that doesn't understand the concept of 3-dimensional space.
That's one of the things I think that, although I don't like the reboot, I think Benedict Cumberbatch did that role a bit better. But I think that's maybe how it was written. He was written more as a genius than Khan in Wrath of Khan.
I suppose as the Khan, as we know him, I know fans hated it, but just as a genetically engineered military genius, he did amazing. And if you want to talk about bad faults in understanding the property that you're writing for, Khan at one point lifts Chekhov and says, "I remember you." That's some dumbass bullshit there, because Chekhov wasn't on the Enterprise during the episode. So that entire movie is just put together with I don't know, just submarine space battles, if you know what I mean. Which, that was a big thing, Cold War. So people talking about, submarine battles in action movies during the Cold War. It was amazing, and copy that for space and put in some fan favorite shit. And hey, wasn't there this hint of a little blonde lab technician? How about Kirk having a son? And it just all...
Yeah. I like that bit, but I just think it's just the earworm, and there's loads of good aspects of Wrath of Khan, but on in terms of First Contact, a terrible dialogue. Brent Spiner flirting doesn't work. It's just funny. It's not. They make that whole situation where he gets the first piece of skin on his arm. They try and make it all sensual, but it's just funny. It's funny.
It didn't work for me either.
It's just funny.
It didn't work. It was weird.
It is. It's just his mannerisms are funny.
Matt texted a couple of minutes
Yeah.
ago. Service died. I'm like 3
Okay.
minutes away from home. I'll pop back on in my studio in a minute.
Okay.
I mean, I'm still good to go for a little bit. So if you are,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm second beer, so that's fine.
good.
I've got literally got a couple more things on the list. My notes. Is there anything that you can think of?
Let's see. Well, there were a few things that I wanted to mention. And there were a few things that I had in my head, but I forgot. Oh, Jerry Goldsmith's amazing score for this movie.
Sorry.
What? Oh, the dog barking. I'll just wait. We'll just wait. Adam has a technical problem with a barking dog, which sometimes can make everybody mad. So we'll just wait for that, which is good.
Sorry. He wants to go outside. I'll be 2 seconds.
That's okay. You do you. I really loved the score. I really think that the score for this movie was phenomenal, absolutely amazing. Talking about a movie like this is a bit difficult when you're so little by yourself. So we'll just.
Sorry. He always announces that he wants to go out and he just barks until you let him out.
That's okay. I thought the score for this movie, the music was amazing. The opening theme, the Star Trek First Contact theme, so to say, I thought was amazingly well. At this point, I believe it was never really established that canonically, even that the first contact, official first contact for humanity was with the Vulcans, but in hindsight, it makes sense.
The nearest one.
No, but it just not even that. It makes sense from a Vulcan point of view that they were aware of humans. They've been observing them, and then suddenly they realized, hey, humans have reached a level of technology.
Yeah, and again, you look back to Enterprise. Apparently, that was hotly debated in the Vulcan Science Academy to whether that was a defined point of when it should be first contact.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was nicely done. Again, by the way, talking about casting, I actually really enjoyed Alice Woodward as Lily.
Yeah.
I really loved Stephen Cochran. I thought the little cameos by people like what's his face? Oh, I forgot the actor's name. Neelix.
No, it's not Neelix. Oh, is it?
It's the character. It's the actor playing Neelix.
Oh, I mixed him.
The bouncer in the bar. The bouncer in the holographic
Oh,
bar.
I didn't see that.
Oh, that's Neelix. The guy who plays Nicky the Nose on the holodeck.
Yeah.
That's Donna's father from That 70s Show.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it's got lovely, like these little cameo. Oh, well, cameos. That's not technically a cameo, but you know what I mean.
You've missed the best cameo that's on there. Reg Barkley.
Reg Barkley. I thought it was great to see Reg back.
See him in everything.
I thought that was a great little nod to the Next Generation. So the movie really has that working for it.
He's in Next Generation. He's in Voyager. He's in.
Mhm.
I think he's in Deep Space Nine as well.
No, he wasn't in Deep Space Nine.
Are you sure he wasn't in one episode?
No, I'm sure.
He's definitely in Voyager.
He's in Voyager 2 or 3 times, even.
More because he's the guy that helps get them back, isn't he?
Yeah, like 2 or 3 times. He's in the finale. He's in 2 episodes, maybe even 3 before that. So he's in 3 or 4 episodes.
I'm sure he's in Deep Space Nine.
No, he's not. He's not.
Sure.
I'm sure. Wait, because of the connection, the Robert Picardo who plays the Doctor was in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah. Oh, hang on. Someone else has had the same thought as me.
But he wasn't.
Apparently in season 7, episode 16, he looks like it's him shaking hands with Dr. Bashir, but it's not him.
Of course, it's not him. If they got what's his face, who plays Reginald Barkley, if they got him,
Is it?
Dwight Schultz, yeah, if they got him for Deep Space Nine, they would have done a lot more than just like.
It looked a lot like him though. They put a screen grab up.
Show it. Send it to me
On
Messenger or something. Yeah. No.
It looked a lot like him. I'll send it.
That is from the episode Inter Arma einem Silent Ledges. Inter Arma.
It's
in war all in war all laws.
So
fucking funny. I will say though, and this is something that we haven't really discussed, and maybe that's something that we could discuss when Matt gets back, is the point that he made that First Contact had a huge impact on Star Trek. And it really shaped the Star Trek that came after it.
I have another issue with the script about the Prime Directive, where Picard makes a big thing about the Prime Directive, but already the Borg have gone back and literally messed around with the timeline to the point, does the Prime Directive even matter?
Well, that's a funny thing, because that's what I tried to mention in just earlier, is that in the novels it's touched upon that because of Janeway altering the timeline and coming back home earlier with advanced technology that stopped a Borg invasion. The Borg actually tried to, the Borg in the novels at some point, the Borg tried to just not even assimilate anymore. They just wanted to destroy everything in the Alpha Quadrant, the Beta Quadrant. They just came in with like 7,000 cubes. And because of several reasons, one of them being the technology that Janeway brought back, they were able to stop the Borg. And if they didn't, the Borg would have taken over the Alpha Quadrant, the Federation, and life as we know it in the 25th century. So yeah, that kind of went out the window. The temporal Prime Directive, as they call it, was completely ignored.
Yeah.
In favor of preserving a timeline that is basically an altered timeline. I'm just going to wait, because usually Matt can add himself back into it, but I'll do it. Hey, dude.
Hey, what's going on?
We're still talking on the same subject, and we just wanted to...
We're talking about what?
Boobs.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I thought so.
Where no man has gone before.
I got it. So actually, I wanted to touch upon a subject that I think you mentioned during your car drive that I think is actually quite important. Star Trek First Contact had a huge impact on Star Trek as we know it for quite a while, and probably still does, because the way that Star Trek was suddenly viewed as humor, action, sexy was suddenly changed a little bit.
Well, not just that. I kind of alluded to it earlier. Like they, Star Trek Next Generation, I mean, like, even the show is great, and what they pulled off in the show is fantastic. They had very tight budget, This is the first time they really got to explore with an elevated budget a lot of the themes, more specifically the Borg, that they didn't have a chance to do. So if you look at Borg makeup, man, it's pretty horrible in that show. And if you look at it in the movie, it's really, really fantastic. And when I said it helped out a lot of Voyager and Deep Space Nine, is that they got to keep all this equipment. They got to keep all this prosthesis, and it elevated the quality. All these things didn't just go away after the movie. It trickled down. I mean, some of the stuff from Voyager and Deep Space Nine trickled into the movie. Like I think the sick bay is from
Deep Space Nine. I think like a couple other parts are from other things, but a lot of the elements that they could never afford from this trickle down into the shows and made them look better.
The sickbay set. Fun fact: the sickbay set was the set from Voyager, because that's the one they did build. That was actually.
Yeah, well, they took it obviously and changed it a bit so it wouldn't look exactly alike, but they repurposed a lot of stuff from the show. But they also took stuff from the movie and brought it over into the show.
Oh yeah, so. But look at it. This is something because this is one of the things that I wanted to mention. Look at the engineering set. Mm-hmm. There's a few shots that really make it clear this wasn't just forced perspective. They built like this 3-story high set. Mm-hmm. There's an angle at some point where two of the engineers are getting into like one of those Jeffrey tubes, and they shot it from such an angle that if you look closely, you really see the top of the warp core. You can half look down. They built this huge cavernous set, which is one of the most amazing things they've ever built for any Star Trek production, if you ask me. And it really worked to give this sort of real world vibe to what is an engine room, not this sort of cramped sort of submarine space that we saw on the shows, but like this huge, I hate the word throbbing, but throbbing piece of machinery, pulsating if you want to, or whatever.
It's wet.
Fuck off.
I guess the logistical part of it, that was the craziest from all my deep diving last night was the radar dish scene when they're doing an outside walk like that. But they said it was like logistically like a freaking nightmare. Like they couldn't, like they had to basically figure out different ways to film in order to even shoot that scene. Just because one. The actual dish is 15% smaller than scale in real life, so that bothered the crap out of them because it wouldn't fit in the soundstage. But in stuff like, they're filming in the dark with lights on the inside of their helmets with glass visors and a light stage. You know what I mean? Like, how the fuck do you film that? You know what I mean? Back then,
There's a lot of that doesn't make sense. Him punching him with the visor on and it's somehow affecting him. Makes no sense. Why Worf didn't have a full size backleth, I don't know. Instead of the small one that was in his little pocket, which could have easily cut through his
suit.
This is established in Deep Space Nine at some point early on in, I believe it was season 6. It's established actually that Worf has a preference for the mechleth, not the batleth. He finds it a more elegant and useful weapon in small quarter fighting compared to the batleth.
Not small quarter. You're out in the
Mechleth is this. Batleth is this.
I get that. But he put it in the pocket of his suit. It could have easily ripped.
He didn't put it in the pocket of his suit. He stuffed it up the back of his shirt. So he's wearing a sealed contained. A sealed contained suit, but then he's like, let me reach in my back of my shirt here and pull this out. Like, that's how it works, dude. You're exposed to space. You're the end of that.
I think the idea was that they have this sort of backpack thingy on that has like the air container and everything in it and the air filtration. So I think in universe there was supposed to be space between the backpack and the suit. But even then, it is a suit that's supposed to protect you from space, and you're pulling a very sharp object right beside it. Like what I did not like, by the way, about that scene, the scene itself is beautiful, but because of at some point some things won't work. And there's a shot where one of the Borg is flying through zero gravity, hits the hull, and you see sparks because it's metal on metal.
Yeah.
And the sparks fall down because gravity. And I hate the fact that so many people put so much effort into making that scene look as real as possible. And fans actually tripped over it and said, oh, that's stupid. They couldn't even make the sparks go zero gravity.
But there wouldn't be any sparks anyway. There's no oxygen.
There's no oxygen in space. There wouldn't be any explosions in the show. So
I know, but what I'm trying to say is they tripped over
And
that.
to be fair, sparks are ultra light things, and that space, the Enterprise has to have its own gravitational field.
That's a
because
fair
of how
point.
big it is. So
That's a fair point.
You know,
Which I, by the way, loved about that scene is showing how. But what I meant is this shows, and we're part of it. We're part of it. Star Trek fans can overthink the logic behind a make believe thing in a wonderful way, and I like that.
You're going through something. So I there's a really great podcast I listen to here in the States. It's called The Rewatchables. It's through the Ringer Podcast Network. The Ringer Podcast Network is a very sports centric network. It's like they do articles and tons and tons of podcasts, and but the Rewatchables is basically they go and talk about movies that are rewatchable, like the best of the best movies, and they have categories, specific categories they go through. And I'm going to steal some of them for this because I think it's interesting. And one of their categories is nitpicks. What are the things about this movie that bother the shit out of you?
Yeah, nitpicking.
So sparks are one. Do you have any other ones that you're like this? Why is this the way it is? Now, Adam, you're going to have to contain yourself to about an hour worth of this conversation because it sounds like the movie is a grand old nitpick. But is there specific things about this movie that you're like, this just is so dumb?
Yes.
The one that I hate the most is, and it shouldn't bother me, is when Picard smashes the display of the model starships. The shot when he smashes it and how things break, and then the following shot of how things are broken and it doesn't it's not right. None of it is right. It's not right. I hate it.
Do you know the bit where Data's hacking into the ship?
Mm-hmm.
Data's been on the Enterprise for how many years as an active crew member?
Mm-hmm.
At some point, has no one thought maybe we should put some sort of protection in against this, like a
especially
voice?
since he's done it during the Next Generation. He did it. Remember when Noonien Sue triggers the beacon and he takes over the Enterprise, and after that, there's nobody who thinks like we should make sure this never happens again, and apparently they never did.
Because they can do voice and password activation. Because I know he does that in the show, doesn't he? He can mimic people's voices.
He does it in the episode, the Noonien Sin one, because he uses Picard's voice. You know what I mean, to over-identify.
But if you a code that he doesn't know, he's not psychic.
Yeah. True. I didn't think of that one actually. To be honest with you, I'll tell you mine. This is my biggest pet. This is my biggest nitpick. So they only get maximum as a whole group 12 phaser blasts until the Borg shield becomes impenetrable.
I know. Oh no!
Yet Picard can mow down two of them with a fucking fury of fucking hologram bullets because the safety things are off. Listen, he gets at least 100 bullets through into each of those Borg. Okay?
Yeah.
So that means physical non-energized material are not affected by the force field. Is that correct?
No. What? Yeah, because look how many does Worf take down hand-to-hand combat?
Well, that's
it's the same principle.
That's what I'm saying. Like that proves what I'm saying is right because hand-to-hand combat is not affected by the force field.
No, because they're physical objects. Yeah.
So physical objects. So why don't they just use the replicators to make a bunch of machine guns and just kill them all real easy?
Because eventually, I imagine they would, but I don't think holographic bullets is so ingenious. I don't think it's on one of those things that within Borg suit programming to make the force field. It's too random. But the hand-to-hand combat thing did annoy me.
But the holographic bullets are technically energy. They're not physical things. They're probably. So why do they work and not laser blasts?
They're too smart. Adam, you're a Deep Space Nine fan, right?
Yeah.
The TR-116.
We're going to have to help me out on that.
The TR-116 was a rifle designed to fight the Borg because it shoots real bullets. Like guns. It was in season 7 of...
projectile,
And in Starfleet, it was an effort to realize it's a matter basically of being too smart because they consider it such old-fashioned technology. It never
Yeah,
came
they're
up
not.
in their minds that maybe old-fashioned technology. But here's the thing: if the Borg are so technologically evolved that they can make force fields around their bodies, I don't want to be an idiot, but force fields on starships are supposed they have energy fields surrounding the ships that is supposed to stop matter penetrating the hull.
Yeah.
So why would Borg not have shields that can stop bullets?
And that's fine to argue.
Power issue.
I don't know.
Bandwidth.
Bandwidth.
But that's the thing. So basically, what Picard does is he guesses, I assume, that these bullets are going to work, and they do. And then subsequently, a couple scenes later, hunch, but it works. It obviously works. And then not just a couple scenes later, he's in the ready room or wherever they're stationed in the battle bridge, and that guy comes up and be like, the one guy comes up. This is right before he explodes and smashes everything, and the guy comes up and basically,
I know exactly what you mean.
We're getting great losses. Why didn't Picard be like, listen, these fake bullets, man, they work. Go to the replicator, get these shits, and mow those motherfuckers down. He's like,
not even that, just fight hand to hand if you have to. Grab a pike and punch it through a throat.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a nitpicky thing for me.
It is. By the way, sorry, Adam.
I was going to say as well, lack of plasma grenades. Yeah. That's something that they never use whatsoever.
Yeah. All these little things, it could. I wonder what an EMP grenade, like if they have like small energy dampening. I don't know. By the way, before I forget, because we were talking about this, Adam, before Matt joined. Matt, do you know who played the Helm officer on the Defiant in this movie?
Yeah, fucking Ben from Parks and Rec.
Okay, there you go. Good.
Just so you know, why did you get? Why? It's a waste of a casting. You get like 3 seconds of dialogue.
He only got that because he was such a big fan of the show. Yeah. Like that.
I thought he was a Star Wars, not a Star Trek. No,
both. But he did that role just so he could be in a Star Trek movie. It's not like I want to get paid and have a big role in this. He's like, I just need to be in the movie.
Did you know, by the way, Matt, we talked about this earlier as well. Did you know that originally the Defiant was supposed to be destroyed in this movie?
Yes, I did.
And Ira Steven Behr and the rest of the producers were not aware that was going to happen. And they got a note while they were making the movie. They got a note going like, by the way, just so you know, the Defiant's going to be destroyed, but not in your show.
Yeah.
And they got hella pissed off and had to fight to rewrite the script that it was just severely damaged and adrift but salvageable. Okay, I wasn't sure if you knew that, but I always thought that in universe, just looking at how.
Oh.
I'm sorry. We had an earthquake today.
I know. I thought that's what I thought. That was what I was thinking about.
I'm hearing something. Anyway. I'm
sorry. I completely forgot to ask. From what I heard in the news reports, basically everything was fine. Nothing.
Yeah, nothing broke. No stuff shook. That was about it. I don't know if we just had another earthquake. That would have been weird.
Could be an aftershock.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, screw this.
It would have been so funny if that oscillator behind you would have suddenly started spiking while you were going.
Yeah, I'll turn it on that way. I can see. Did you know? And you probably do that. This goddamn shit is how bad would have this been? They were gonna have this in instead of the Zephyr Cocker thing, they were gonna do it in medieval Italy. In the 1500s.
What was that story again? I heard something about that. They were going to do,
and it was going to be called Star Trek Renaissance.
Yeah, they had this weird fucking plot. It made no fucking sense. What was it again? I read about that years ago. It made no sense. And
it was the Borg would assimilate a castle, and they would fight them with phasers, but also swords and shit. And like,
It was so fucking weird.
and yeah, and Patrick Stewart's like, I'm not wearing tights. You can go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
Did you know that early on, instead of having the Enterprise E being this new sovereign class starship and having a new ship designed for, they actually contemplated, like they did with the original series movies, have another Galaxy class. They actually
Yeah.
took out one of the models that they had for filming and relabeled it Enterprise E. They were contemplating on using, but they figured, considering that they already destroyed all the sets for the Enterprise D, and that they wanted to bring in a new movie and go like sort of get everything fresh and new, they decided to go for the new ship and make it all sexy and everything and sleek. I always thought that was funny.
This might be a little bit off topic, but I'm curious because you guys watched a lot more post Next Generation. Like you know the finale, Next Generation, the whole timeline thing where they go into the future.
Yeah.
Does that hold up like canon wise with like no?
No.
Yeah, because Worf
Picard
and
completely ruins that.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, Worf and Deanna were never a
Like,
thing.
together, and I just didn't know like if they stuck to that or not.
Are you planning on ever watching season 3 of Picard? And if so,
Yeah, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna start it soon.
Do you mind being spoiled?
Don't spoil it for him. No, don't
Okay,
spoil it.
otherwise, that's
Yeah,
fantastic. Otherwise, I have to go into so many details. It wouldn't be fun.
They retroactively. All you can say is they retroactively change it, and that doesn't matter. But they explain why that happens.
Okay, fair enough. So they're pulling a Marvel universe shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does help to understand a few small details about season 3 if you've watched the finale of Star Trek Voyager.
A little bit.
A little bit. One or two small little things make a little bit more sense. But other than that, you can basically just, as a Next Generation, I actually made this point on a Star Trek forum not that long ago. You do not have to watch Star Trek Picard season 1 and 2 to make sense
to watch
of
3.
You could basically just be a Next Generation fan.
I'd highly recommend not watching the last 3 episodes of series 2. They're bloody awful.
Yeah. The last few scenes are kind of emotionally nice, but other than that, you do not have to watch seasons 1 and 2 of Star Trek Picard. You can fully enjoy as a Next Generation fan. You could go from the Next Generation into the Star Trek Next Generation movies, watch Nemesis, and then just go straight into Picard season 3. Yeah. And there would be a few things that you might want to Google, but other than that, it makes sense. He's checking to make sure that there have not been any earthquakes.
No, I'm looking at my notes.
Do you have any?
Yeah, I have a bunch. It's not so much about the movie; it's more your guys' thoughts and stuff. What is your favorite scene from the movie?
Ooh,
Adam, I know yours is just none of them.
No. I had some good. There's some good scenes in it. There's quite a few good scenes. The Robert Picardo cameo just makes me laugh. I laughed a lot. Just where he suggests about the cream as they're coming in.
That's good. That's good.
Wait, sorry about that. I didn't hear. What did you say?
Sorry, the Robert Picardo cameo where he's the EMH, and he suggests the Borg need some sort of cream for their implants.
Analgesic cream or something.
Yeah.
That was good, like soothing cream for your skin. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. Zephram Cochrane, when he can't find the music to get going.
I love that one.
Yeah.
I just still get a kick out of Zephram Cochrane sitting in the cockpit of the Phoenix. The thing just went to warp, and he's just sitting there going,
"Yeah, that's a good one." Yeah.
That's just it's like he knew what was going to happen, and he's just sitting there going. I love that.
Actually,
that was funny.
One of my sneaky favorite scenes is actually right before that, and if you watch it, I I just think it's really cool because I think it's really, really, really good acting. Is then like, you know, when she kind of, you know, lets Data go, and then Data's like on her side, and Picard's like doesn't know and all that stuff, and then he fires torpedoes. If you watch that scene closely, Picard immediately knows they're not going to hit the ship before they get there. So like he does, you know, Data or Spinner does a great job of selling it because you can't. He's got a poker face on. The Borg Queen, she's just like smiling and glistening and sweating and all her great deliciousness.
Sweaty.
And then, well, you realize how sweaty this movie is? Everybody's sweating the whole movie.
I know exactly what you mean. Yes.
Yeah.
Does she have sweat glands? She's just the head and shoulders.
Yeah, but they're organic material, and Data's, you know what I mean? Like maybe they need lubricant. I don't know. And then,
lube, dear lube.
and then, but if you look really close, obviously Picard does the same thing, but he looks back at Data, and you can tell on his face, he's like, I know. You can see it in his face. Go back and watch it. You can see it in his face. He looked back at Data, and he's like, doesn't say anything, but he's like, oh, you're on my side. You're not. These aren't going to hit. And before any of that shit goes down,
you know that because he asked the question afterwards.
0.68 seconds.
Yeah. But he knew, like in the moment. Yeah. But like, because he's such a captain that he's like, those torpedoes are not on the right fucking trajectory. You know what I mean? Like, we're good.
I was just reminded of something because you mentioned the Borg Queen and Data.
Oh, they definitely had sex, right?
No, they had sex. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what I love is
not in the traditional fashion. She's only a head and shoulders.
We don't know what's underneath down there. You don't know what's down there. There could be a.
But I remember that you just said earlier is that how everybody looks amazing.
Not organic.
Everybody looks fantastic, and they do. Everybody's still very much in their prime. But there is a scene.
Like, Data can totally have sex. How possibly could she not have sex?
Hang on, I actually put that in my notes. Oh no! The comment of fully functional in many techniques.
Yes, and we know that's Natasha from previous episodes. But I'm saying, how do you not? I mean, Data's literally the best parts of all these cultures. How does he not have a badge down there?
That was literally the same line, by the way. What Data uses, I'm fully functional, programmed in multiple techniques. It's literally the same line he uses with Natasha. Yeah. No, what I was just thinking about is you mentioned earlier, and this is a throwback to something Roger Moore once said. You said that everybody was in their prime, everybody looks fantastic. There's a scene when Data kisses the Borg Queen, and you can just see this because everybody's getting a little bit older, and Data has like this three double chin thing going on during the kissing moment. And I'm always reminded of an interview that Roger Moore once said when he was asked, like, when did you feel that you were getting too old to be an actor? When he responded, when I was doing a kissing scene and I saw my own shadow and I noticed I had a three double chin. And every time I see that shot in the movie where I see Data's sort of like double chin when he kisses the Borg Queen, I'm reminded of that. I can't take that scene with any kind of suspense or drama because of that Roger Moore quote.
Well, they actually planned to. What's the word I'm looking for? They had a plan to circumvent that issue because they knew Data was a machine and he wouldn't grow old and fat like Spinner.
Yeah,
and so the whole skin put
the flash thing.
It was supposed to be the whole body, so they were going to do like a CGI-ish kind of thing and keep Spinner svelte. But then they were like, "This costs too much money and it's going to look bizarre, so let's just ignore that." So
I'm going to grab another beer. What do you reckon?
You drinking Hudson Valley beer?
No, Parish, another half.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what's up next.
Go pick something nice. In the meantime, I am curious. Enjoy your Allagash White, by the way. I'm curious what your favorite scene was, Matt. But you haven't mentioned it yet.
It might be that scene where Picard, that whole sequence, because you know what I mean, like from him giving himself over. I like that. honestly, the battle scene with the Borg cube is fantastic. I just enjoy the crap out of that because I think it's
Especially since it had the Millennium Falcon in it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What else? I'm trying to think if there's anything else specific that I was like, that's fucking fantastic.
We were talking about it's not so much how everything looks, but like the entire how everything comes together. I always felt that the sound editing in this movie was amazing as well. We were talking about photon and quantum torpedoes in your car ride. There's this moment during that Borg battle where you hear the photon torpedoes being fired, and you sort of get like this pew pew pew, and then you hear these the quantum torpedoes being released, and it has this sort of, I can't explain, but this deeper reverberated. I just love those little details. By the way, did you guys know that the blinking lights on the Borg drones
I know exactly
they're all in Morse code? What do you have?
Fat Bear from Hot Butcher for the World. Was that peanut butter stout? Is that what it is?
Yep. Peanut butter and pea. Yeah, I only got this for today.
Lovely.
We're getting a lot of Hot Butcher at the moment.
Yeah, so are we. We don't get a lot of their stouts though. We get more of their IPAs.
They don't make stouts.
I know,
they make them, but not a ton. Their stouts are really good. They just came out with a canned barrel aged one. Hopefully I get it. But if you ever have a chance to have they call it the Columbia Imposition Stout. That's the banger they make.
Continental Head though.
No, but yeah, the Borg drones, all the blinking lights, it's all Morse code, and it's all names of producers and staff and actors, and they're all blinking the names of everybody involved in the movie. And I always thought that was a fun little trick. I think that, especially for the day and age, the special effect that they did, where they lowered the Queen's head and shoulders.
Yeah, it's really good.
That's entire scene for the day and age. I thought that was very well done.
For the day and age, I mean, when I rewatched it last night, I rewatched it like they released a little less than a year ago. They re-released it in 4K Ultra HD. It's in 4K. It looks a little more dodgy than you think.
Yeah, don't watch this. I have like the Blu-rays that are like just your standard 1080p. Don't watch this above anything else than 1080p. It's not going to hold up.
The whole movie looks great. It's just that you can tell. But that's the thing. Like Industrial Light and Magic did all their special effects in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Not 6 months, not a year, which is typical. 4 fucking weeks.
It was amazing.
That's insane.
They did it in such a way that if you've ever seen close-up renders of the starships that they did for that big battle, you can tell that it was a rush job because the textures are off and weird and nothing makes sense in terms of scale. But they did it in such a way that when the scene comes together, it just doesn't. It works. Nothing
chaotic enough. It doesn't have to.
Exactly. It's wonderfully done.
But it's like the way they do CGI now is not the way they did CGI back then. And I don't mean like a technology advance, because like the way when they did CGI back then, what they did was they created the ship, and the ship was a CGI. Now what they do is they actually create a blank model of the ship and apply textures to the model, and that's why everything looks so good nowadays. That uncanny valley of an angle being a hair off or the light not reflecting in the proper way. So when you see like a TIE fighter, Millennium Falcon, whatever, nowadays they use a physical model, but they apply the CGI textures to the model. So it's like a hybrid, and that makes everything look better. But I thought the fight, that scene was great.
Fun fact is that the Enterprise E was the last time a new starship was actually still built as a physical model. Every new ship released after the Enterprise E on Star Trek was pure CGI. That was the last time they built a complete physical model to film.
That was even my question.
For Star Trek. After that, things, especially, they did a few kit bashes on Deep Space Nine. for like fleet shots, but like actual full-on hero stuff, the Enterprise from Star Trek Enterprise, the NX-01, full CGI. Especially the movies and everything after that, everything was full 100% CGI. No physical models were built. The only time if they wanted to have a physical model, it was when the rougher designs were made and they wanted something for the producers to have a look at, like, hey, this is kind of what we're having, this is in your hand, but no models for filming were ever made ever again. Insurrection was full 100% CGI.
I have another nitpick I forgot to mention.
Go for it.
I'm curious. So the Borg arrived in what is it, 2054 or something? I think.
Yeah.
2063.
63.
April the 4th, 2063.
Yeah. And the Enterprise shows up and they know they're going to be killed.
Yeah.
So they beam over to the Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
Unnoticed.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't it just beam down to Earth?
I've wondered that before because I'm guessing they needed the resources of the Enterprise for long-term, like the fact that there was this big. I mean, when you look at it, the Enterprise has like a warp core. So in terms of long-term energy supply, resources, communication technology, all these things. For could it have been built on Earth eventually?
Let me rephrase that. Why not beam just a couple dudes down?
And then the rest of the Enterprise, both. What was that wonderful meme again from The Road to El Dorado? Both is good.
Yeah,
both is
yeah.
good.
That was one down, and I was like, "What are you?"
That would have been like if
like
you look at
it's like I know it's kind of probably a skeleton crew because it's an escape pod, but it's like literally like when they get there, they start shooting at Cochrane.
Do you
But
know?
why are they just being efficient and just shooting Borg down there just to fucking get the party started?
Escape pod, the size of I think the diameter of one of those Borg spheres is like 500 or 600 meters. The length of the Enterprise E is 685 meters. They could have had hundreds of drones on that sphere.
Yeah.
So that sphere isn't like, let's say my mouse here is the Enterprise E. It's not like the sphere was this. The sphere was like this.
Yeah,
that thing was big because
Borg. But it's not so much. It's not so, and that's the thing. It's not so much they can't fit that many Borg on there, but like they have the time to occupy it, knowing like they didn't know the Borg cube was going to blow up. Like they had 10 seconds to occupy the escape pod. Is the escape pod constantly like occupied? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
but even if they had like 20 drones on that sphere, if they beamed 5 down to Earth to that missile complex and 15 to the Enterprise,
not even the missile complex. Send them to Chicago. Hell, Florida's great that time of year. Send them there.
Yeah.
Whatever. If they could, that would have been a slow burn, but it would have been something that would have worked and achieved their goal. And that's something that Adam and I talked about earlier. There is nothing in the way that the Borg reason and the way the Borg work that the entire idea of them wanting to travel back in time, they think long term.
Wouldn't have worked. You know why? Because any physical challenge, the Borg just it's done, isn't it? They can't put the shield up for anyone to challenge them physically, so it wouldn't have worked.
No, but they would have gone in hiding, and within the way that their assimilation true, but the way their assimilation works, if they would have
data and snap their neck.
If they would have gone into Chicago, 5 drones in Chicago,
rip some hot butcher while they're there.
There you go as well. But within 2 days, they would have had almost 1,000 drones in Chicago. If they had just gone unnoticed, they would have just on the sly assimilate here and there, here and there, here and there. Assimilation progress goes so fast. They would have had rough material would have been there to create alcoves to regenerate. They could have had thousands of drones within a matter of week before people would have actually really noticed.
But would they be real drones? Because if you look at the technology that they put on, so like the arm gauntlets and the cybernetic
Yeah, but they just
that
need raw material. They need raw material.
But is that technology available?
No, but they have the technology. That's
They
the
produce
nanites.
it.
The nanites.
Yeah, they had it on the Sphere.
No, but the nanites. The
No,
nanites that are in.
remember that? What's his name? Hawk gets assimilated and starts converting while
in seconds
out in space.
Yeah,
raw
but
material.
raw material. Thing.
No, but raw material is created from like any raw material they have. The nanites can take raw material and build whatever it needs, just depending on what is around and the type of technology. If it's like pure raw metal, it's going to take a very long time. But it's
surely you
doable.
just put the nanites in the drinking supply.
No, you need to inject it in the bloodstream.
Yeah, because you've seen it before where they inject a guy in the beginning. Quick question that really is kind of loosely tied to this movie, but I'm just curious as being what are you again? What's the word you hate, Thomas? Not Dutch. What's the one that I make fun of all the time? Holland. So as a person from Holland and a person from the UK.
Are you a lowlander, Thomas?
What are your thoughts on whenever an alien species is involved with Earth, they only go to the United States of America? What are your thoughts about that? When an alien species ever comes to the planet, they only go to the United States. They only go to the United States.
Well,
they never go anywhere else.
Not in Picard season 3.
99% of the time in every movie and TV show ever created, they just go to the United States.
Yeah, I actually had a talk about that with my brother today. I visited him, and we talked about that. It's because when these movies are made, they need to be recognizable for a generic audience. So they take things that a huge audience, even internationally, can relate to and understand. Now, here's a fun thing: you guys always
Thomas just said appeals to the lowest common denominator in a very nice. That
too. That is very actually too. But here's the thing: American movies over the last couple of decades have made it very clear that there's this thing in America. It's called MIT, the biggest technologically advanced learning institution that we have in the world. Actually, in the Netherlands, we have the Technical University Delft, the TU Delft, which is internationally renowned as being the best there is. But the general public doesn't know about it, but everybody's heard of MIT. So it always has to be something that is internationally recognizable. And if there's one thing that Americans have been capable of doing in the last couple of decades is make themselves very internationally recognizable in terms of branding and whatever. So that's why it always happens. And let's also face it, all these movies are made in America and they're going to film in America. And sometimes they make an issue of saying, you know what, we're going to film in America, but pretend it's London, isn't it?
Or a lot of the time, they film in Vancouver and Prague and pretend it's America. Or in Liverpool and pretend it's old school New York, like Captain America.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
That's all it's Captain America film where he's running down. That's Liverpool docks.
Yeah.
Notice? Did you know? Let me ask you this. You probably did, but I'm just curious because I thought. What did you notice besides the makeup and enhancements of the Borg that were better than the show? What did you notice the big difference between the Borg from the show and the Borg from the movie? Was there anything that jumped out at you?
Diversity. You could still see many different species.
That's it.
If you look closely, I actually have an action figure.
Like all the Borg from the show they're humanoids.
Yeah.
They're not Klingon, they're not Bajoran, they're not whatever.
Do you know why?
Straight generic.
Do you know why?
Budget restraints. Yeah.
Budget restraints, but in the origin of the Borg, if you see it in the very first episode of The Next Generation, the word assimilation is never dropped. They are incubated, they are grown, they are all templates of a base humanoid form are grown.
Yeah, but by the time the Federation meets them, they've assimilated so many different species.
Retroactively. But by the first time we see them in The Next Generation, it is established. We literally see when in the episode Q Who, season 2 of The Next Generation, they actually open up a drawer where we see an incubated, half assimilated Borg drone. The entire concept of assimilation was only first thought up of as with Picard, that he was taken in and made part of the collective. And in the episode I, Borg of The Next Generation, the Borg, Hugh, has no identity. That's why he has the name Hugh. He is basically androgynous. He doesn't have male or female specifics. He looks slightly male, but that is because the concept of the male physique, as in being stronger, would be better for a drone because they would be more robust. But he is basically completely androgynous, has no previous identity, has no previous name or whatever. And it wasn't really until the Next Generation movies where they started coming up with the concept of, and because Voyager was being made, of course, and Voyager was playing with the idea of assimilation, 7 of 9 and everything. The entire concept of species being assimilated wasn't thought up until Star Trek First Contact, because they were already considering.
Not true.
No, that's actually true. You can look that up. You can look that up.
No, it's not, because you can even talk. There's the when during the episode you're talking about Q, the whole kind of tension of that is Guinan talking about how the Borg destroyed her culture and all these other cultures.
To take over technology. They were interested in technology. Yeah. They were always but Google it. You can look it up right now. They were never interested in people. They destroyed civilizations to take.
So you're saying it's more of a conquer rather than assimilation?
They were interested in raw materials. They were interested in technology, but the entire idea of assimilation wasn't thought up until, and that is why in Star Trek First Contact, we see Klingons, we see Cardassians, we see different species as Borg drones.
First time of people of color as well.
This is actually mentioned in one of those Star Trek novels.
It literally that was an earthquake I just experienced again, by the way.
Oh, seriously? That's okay. How big was it?
Was it an earthquake or was it an aftershock?
The first one we had was a 4.8 on the Richter scale earthquake. Yeah. The one that I just experienced was a 4. So it was only 0.8.
Fucked up. And they still have no idea why? Because your area is not known for...
Well, we're not known for having earthquakes, but we do have fault lines, and they have had happen before. Okay. I've never experienced one. Yeah, I've never experienced one, but I've been there's been some I've read about them, and over the years, every 5 to 10 years, you'll read about, there was one in Virginia, there's one here, one there, but I've never felt them. Now, but it's also, you have one, there is, there's tension. That's what happens with earthquakes. So the fact that you have a second one isn't that out of the ordinary. Just because it's the Earth releasing tension. Release that tension, baby. It's like Chubbs behind salmon. Ease that tension.
It's all in the head.
Can I quickly ask something about tension? Can I quickly ask something about tension? Because Matt, for me, it is now April the 6th. Big date for you.
For me?
Yeah. Tonight, right? For you, or for me tonight. For you tomorrow night, right? April 6th. I thought you had a gig. I thought you had that gig. Wasn't that this weekend?
I'm not going.
Oh no!
Yeah. I honestly, good things. I started a new job, and I just can't leave right now.
Okay.
So I didn't mention anything about it. But I literally just started a new job 2 weeks ago. And not that I have to work on the weekends, but it's I have so much shit thrown at me. I couldn't do it.
You just trying to play catch up.
Yeah. Well, this job, I fell ass backwards in this job. I can't screw this. I literally just got I want to say maybe my dream job. I think I'll be here for the rest of my life, kind of thing.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah. So it ended up being too much on my plate, and I couldn't focus on practice, and I couldn't focus on anything, and I just told him, I was like, listen, dude, I'm sorry. I'm I can't go. And I didn't even tell him till Monday, just because I thought I could still be able to swing it somehow. So unfortunately, I'm not doing it, but I'm going to go back up. I'm going to go back up and this whole job affords me the ability to do that. Like, it's such a cool place and it's such a great opportunity. But yeah, I had to basically cancel on it. But he's told the guys organized, he's like, dude, that's awesome. He's like, we'll just have you come up in the fall, blah 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 blah. So yeah.
Were you looking for a new job, or it just happened to?
No, I got recruited. That's the thing.
Oh, poach.
To a certain extent. So at the job I had, so for the past 2 years, I've worked at a print studio to where we actually print and produce. I was a graphic designer and print production manager, a place that prints stuff for the general public. A lot of companies too, but it was just a retail or consumer facing business. It was kind of like getting a little slow, and like, you know, like little things happen. Like, it was slow, and then like, you know, every now and then like a bill wouldn't get paid, so I was like stressed out a little bit, like, maybe the business wasn't doing well.
You might get laid off.
I asked you, yeah, kind of. So I asked the owner straight up. I was like, listen, we're really good friends. We still talk. Parted ways great. But I told him, I was like, what's going on, dude? And he's like, well, we're slow. And he's like, but his son is actually, he's been teetering on his son's wants to become a professional race car driver. And his son just got signed to a club in Italy to race. It's like F3 or something. It's still, you know, he's working towards F1. You know,
Formula E is a big thing at the minute.
I forget what it was, but he's like, you know, he's like, I kind of want to, you know, he's like, I don't know. He's like, I kind of think I might want to like not get rid of the business. He's like, I didn't even just like, you know, kind of give it to you or whatever. He's like, but I kind of want to help him out and follow him and just help, because it's all about sponsorship and the team. Yeah. Like, with these teams, it's not like he gets paid. He has to go out and get sponsors. The sponsors pay for his ride, and then the sponsors pay for his living and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, he only gets paid with prize money, essentially.
Yeah. Well, not prize money, the actual sponsors, like your sponsors. You pay the club the money to race. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously the top tier, like the Schumachers and the Hamiltons, they don't pay shit. You know what I mean? But it's like, on your way up, you pay, be like, okay, you have to pay us $120,000 to race for our team. We want you to race for our team because you're good, but you have to pay that, and you pay that through sponsorship. You know what I mean? And you incur, you get the sponsors, and then, like, let's say the sponsors give you $250,000, you owe us $120,000. Well, then you make $130,000 a year. That's how it kind of works. Anyway, so he was like, he's like, I'm not sure what I want to do. And he basically said, he's like, I wouldn't begrudge you if you wanted to look for another job. So I went on in the United States. We have, I don't know if it's over there. We have, you know, Indeed. It's like a job.
Yeah, we have Indeed.
Yep. And I went on Indeed, and I didn't do anything but activate my profile. Like, I had it previously from looking for a job, so I activated it and just looked around, and I was like, I'm gonna stick this out. You know what I mean? And just see what's going, because I really like the guy I work with and whatnot. And then this company reached out to me, and they're like, hey. They're like, you know, I at my job I did previous to the job I have now, I did specific things for that job that was very specific to what this company needs. And they recruited me. They're super nice. And I was like, fuck it. You know, they offered me money. I said, well, you know, my brain, I already have a job. I'm like, that's not going to cut it. I know not this. So I gave myself a hefty raise. And I got a bunch of other perks with the job. And I was like, scared because I accepted the offer, and because I was like, man, I'm wondering, hopefully this place doesn't suck, you know, because you don't know until you get in there. And it is like the best place, at least for the first couple weeks, the best place I've ever worked at in my life.
Nice.
Zero stress. Like, I feel like, you ever watch a TV show about like a think tank venture capitalist place in California that's like cool and relaxed? It's like that. It's like, it's like half the time it's like they're like, let's have a meeting, and my job is creative, so I do graphic design, but I also do marketing and just creative. So it's like, let's have a meeting, and it'll be me, the owner, and this other person. We'll just sit there and spend 2 hours talking about what kind of t-shirts we want to make for a show, or what kind of cool things we can think of for social media. And it's like, just like laughing, joking. Oh, let's grab some lunch. You know, I work like 3 a.m.
Are you sat on bean bags?
What? No. I'm sitting on normal. But it's honestly, it's very similar to the place that I worked at previously before my previous job, but well funded. Like the owners, the two, I call them the owners. If I say owner, they get angry. Like, oh, we're not an owner. We're not your boss. You know what I mean? They're like, we're all colleagues. You know, they made all their money when they're in their 60s now, early 60s, like late 50s, early 60s. But they made a lot of money in the 80s. They created the world's first mouth non-blood test AIDS HIV test. So they created the world HIV test that you would swab a mouth with a swab.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how they made all their money. So they're venture capitalists. They're investors. That's what their job is. Now they're here every day, but they have several of the businesses that they run or whatever. But you could tell they hire just good people. Like everybody there is mad cool. You know what I mean? Like everybody that I work with is just happy. They pay well. You know, there's a bonus structure, full benefits, and in the United States. But it's like I have like everything, vision, the dental, whatever. The stuff that a lot of these businesses don't do. My other company that I worked for prior to this that was similar, was very stressed out. Like they were very nickel and diming me about stuff. I walked in this place. The first day, and they're like, here's your $4,000 MacBook Pro. They're like, make sure you take that home with you every day. You know what I mean? Like shit like that. You know what I mean? So it's like,
right.
Okay.
But here's the thing that I want to know. Here's the thing that I want to know because I know it's important to you. How's the commute?
The exact same time as my commute I had. So I have to go into Pennsylvania. Right? There's no toll or anything. It's all back roads. But it also does afford me the ability to work from home more. So I get to work from home more often now, not for the first month or so until I get my feet underneath me. But oddly enough, a lot of the stuff this is very boring stuff for people that are watching, but so the company is basically the company I work for now, it's called Cryo Concepts. They do cryogenic products. Basically, if skin tag removers, wart removers, like facial, like aesthetic stuff for like spas and stuff like that. That's their business, and I'm a graphic designer, internal graphic designer, and marketer for them. Like today, I worked on all the Netherlands line for Scholl's wart remover. Like having to they sell stuff in every region, but it was funny because today I was like, I'm working on Thomas's stuff. I'm going to talk to him later.
Yeah, because I need wart remover.
Yeah.
No, but I'm happy for you, man, because and I can understand that this make things a lot more stressless for you.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I'm very excited. That's the reason why I'm not going up there. So.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but as long as you get to.
It hurt. It painfully. It was actually very anxiety driven for me because I was like, the guy that I did this, I was going to play the show with. It's a rather large show. There's a decent amount of people. I agreed to do this in October. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not like something he's like 2 weeks ago. He's like, what, do you want to come back? Well, I feel bad about it, but he also understands. He's totally chill. Like,
I mean, if things happen, unfortunately we've had to cancel 2 gigs in the near future, like in the next 2 weeks for reasons. But if it's for reasons that people can understand, it should be good. But I would like to come back and stress the point that assimilation really was only invented for Star Trek First Contact. And
I understand what you're saying there. Like, there's a difference between like absorbing technology and assimilating the organic physical being, and I was not separating those two things.
But in hindsight, that does make it cool because I could quickly grab it right now. But I have a Cardassian Borg drone, which is really fucking cool to see as an action figure. Bought it secondhand, and it looks very, very detailed, and it's nice and creepy. And going back to that entire concept of assimilation and assimilating technology and people, Star Trek has been clear that there have several cultures, but also several, beings that are, for example, very physical fit, but also species that have very strong. I don't know how shall we put this nicely? Brain capacity. They be smart. So it got to a point in Star Trek novels, for example, where they will be talking about tactical drones. Drones that would be more equipped for um, assault, but drones that will be better suited for computing and things like that. It doesn't really make sense when you think about what the Borg are, but it was kind of fun, and to see like Klingon drones and Cardassian drones. There's this one shot in Star Trek First Contact, and it's probably what made you think, is that you see a drone looking down and having this moment where his face looks up, and you can clearly see that he's a Klingon. And I always loved that. Thought that was really coolly done. Adam popped off for a bit, I see.
Let me think. What else? So, like I said, there's sorry, I'm just closing my work stuff so they don't pay me.
Sorry, the dog's being very needy.
I had those I was referencing that podcast that has specific like things that thing they talk about that I'm borrowing from. And this is one that I think is really, really interesting way to talk about a movie. Who do you think won the movie?
Who won the movie?
Who won the movie? Like, did the director? Did Patrick Stewart? Did the score? Did the
director?
Did the next company? You know what I mean? Like, who won the movie?
I think. Yeah, what Adam said, like Jonathan Frakes really stepped up to the plate.
What did he get out of it, though? Did he get a feature film out of it? Another feature film?
Well, he got the next. He did the next film.
Insurrection. Yeah, and that one tanked, bombed, whatever you want to call it. But let's face it. I mean, his second feature installment may not have done so well. But he did.
Was this 96?
First Contact was 1996.
Yeah.
And I think Insurrection was 98 or 99. I'd have.
So if you're looking on Korea, Patrick Stewart won because you got X-Men in 99.
Yeah, but he got the exposure for Thanks to All with the Next Generation. Do you think?
I don't think maybe I'm just assuming here, but I'm pretty sure Patrick Stewart to be Professor X, regardless of anything that happened. You know what I mean? The way he looked, his accent, the whole nine.
But the thing is, well, the accent is because he's Professor X not supposed to be British, is he supposed to be?
No. But I'm saying you're going to try to portray a brainy, smart guy.
See that always annoyed me. What is an upstate, high class New York person supposed to sound like from Westchester? Don't think it's supposed to be like Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go with director.
You originally said director, but then you say Patrick Stewart. What do you say, Thomas?
I think
I'm going to let this dog back in.
I would say I would want to say Jonathan Frakes, but I think in the end it was probably the studios because I feel. Hey, Mark. Sorry, somebody's saying hi in the comments. Hi, Mark. I think the studios, because in hindsight, I think that Star Trek First Contact really extended the lease of life that Star Trek had. Because Star Trek was still doing okay, but we could already see a decline in ratings.
Two series running.
Doesn't matter. It's not about it, maybe, but if you look at the ratings for Star Trek were already dropping a little bit after The Next Generation. People were not as invested in Deep Space Nine and Voyager.
Invested. It was the franchise was fucking tanky.
Yeah.
Yeah, as much as you love that show, and honestly, Thomas, my answer is the same as yours. Except that I wouldn't say the studios; I would say Star Trek as a whole.
Yeah,
like Generations is was not good. You know what I mean? Like,
I like Generations.
No, I don't mind.
Oh, you mean commercially?
Yeah, commercially.
Commercially, it bombed.
No, commercially it did okay, I think, but I think like critically it did bad.
Did it? I thought. Yeah. Okay, I'll believe you. Could be.
No, let me see. I'll tell you right now. Okay, the budget for Generations was $35 million. It made 118. So it's not. It didn't fail, but it critically it was bad. I mean, if you go on Generation Rotten Tomatoes, it's probably bad down there. It's not Nemesis bad, but it was tanking like between. It wasn't so much that Voyager and Deep Space Nine are bad shows. I never personally got into them. They were fine, but it was like it was too. They needed one or the other. They didn't need both. You know what I mean? So things were diluted. I think this movie kind of put Star Trek back in a safe space.
It did. I mean, Deep Space Nine. I'm gonna say one thing as a niner, a huge niner. Deep Space Nine is sort of like a required taste for the people who loved the original series and the Next Generation. They couldn't really find a connection with that show, and when it comes to Voyager, and this is a problem that a lot of fans say about Voyager. Voyager was basically just the Next Generation light. And people were looking at it going like, we've seen this before, but it was done better, and it was called the Next Generation.
See, I preferred DS9 for the fact that I don't think Voyager's supporting cast was as strong.
Agreed.
Plus, you can't dismiss the fact that like Star Trek Next Generation like went off the air like they were still fucking apexing.
Yeah,
like, the viewership in fandom was still.
I have to comment on that. If you look at reviews on forums and what people are saying, people were still tuning in, so the ratings were high for the Next Generation. People were still watching, but general consensus is that the quality of the Next Generation started dropping early season 6 and got really shit during season 7. I'm not sure I agree, but that's like a general consensus. But people were still watching though. Like the ratings were still high. People were still tuning in because it was the Next Generation.
But people are still tuning in. They can talk all the shit they want about it not being good, but they're still fucking tuning in. You know what I mean? Like not even hate viewing. I think people go a little bit kind of like, I don't know what the word I want to use here is. They get a little bit like
into a rhythm.
No. People get a little bit angsty against the things they like because it's been around so long and it's not what they want it to be. You know what I mean?
Interesting question, because you're talking about tuning in. Mark, this is in Dutch. Mark is saying, I've never watched Star Trek. Maybe I should give it a shot. Where do I begin?
I have an unpopular answer.
And that is?
I would start chronologically within the universe. So I'd start with Enterprise.
I think it might help because of it's more of a modern show. It will appeal to the modern audience. Because let's face it, the original series, as much as it has my heart, is very dated, and people who watch modern TV are not going to fully understand these old shows. And the Next Generation, as much as I love it, the first season is a bit of a thing to get through, especially if you've never seen Star Trek. It's going to be rough. So I think starting with Enterprise, the more sleek and sexy show, at least
Strange New World.
It's gonna appetize you, and you're gonna get things. And if you get to the core of it, like the meat and potatoes, you're gonna start appreciating things like the Next Generation and the original series a lot more. But
let me ask you this, because you guys know better than me, and I'm curious about this. You're way better equipped to answer that question because you watch way more of the universe. Do they fudge around in some of these shows where they kind of subtly reference the future? Like, like there's like, for example, one of my favorite video games is Metal Gear, and the best Metal Gear they made was Metal Gear 3, which is actually a prequel to all the Metal Gears. But there's always this kind of subtle reference to stuff that hasn't happened yet in a weird roundabout way that you only get if you play the originals. So even though it is a prequel, you kind of don't get the whole thing unless you play the play the
episode.
You mean well, not even that. The last episode of Enterprise. But what about season 2 regeneration of Enterprise, where we meet the Borg that were marooned on Earth from Star Trek First Contact?
They're stuck in the ice.
But you were talking about the Borg drones that should have beamed to Earth. When the sphere exploded, wreckage landed
Yeah, I
on
know
Earth,
that.
and
I
there
know
were
that
drones.
part.
Yeah, so that was in Star Trek Enterprise. They did that. So the
They're in the
Borg were
Arctic.
the Borg were on Earth about 200 years before Picard ever met them in the Next Generation.
Yeah, and that's the
So
thing that you have to think about, because when you live in this universe and you know everything,
yeah.
it's easy to say that. But if you don't know those subtle nods, then you don't get it. You know
Well,
what
I
I
will
mean?
say,
But if you
sorry,
go
yeah.
too far back, with TOS, I just think modern audience is going to really struggle with the production values in relation to the story.
I think that Enterprise, even though the fan service with bringing in things like Ferengi and the Borg, it was big fan service. They did it in such a way that for somebody
Ferengi's
who's
just like
never
a little bit. It's only like a little nod. It's not really.
there
I know
was
they're
there
in
was
an
there
episode.
was there was a whole episode with Ferengis.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But I mean,
But
it's not an ongoing
no, but the point being
species.
is that for people who've never seen the Next Generation, they can still appreciate. They could probably understand that this is a nod or a reference to something that is something from other shows, but you
The
can
last
watch
episode
it. You can watch
might
it
not.
without. You can watch it without having to see that, and then when you get into the Next Generation, you go like, "Oh, okay, now I'm curious about more." So I do think that Enterprise is actually a good show, and like you said, especially right now in terms of modern TV, modern ways of
Yeah.
storytelling, but getting into the episodic nature of Star Trek, not like the serialized, but the old school episodic thing. Strange New Worlds is a great one.
Strange New World. Strange New Worlds, I think, it's a good one to go from that to the original series because you have all the context.
Yeah, and especially if you really go into all the details, a lot of the production design. Some people say that Strange New Worlds looks too modern, but if you really start looking at so many details, like console details, uniform details, everything
Yeah, the
is
trousers.
so spot on. It's
The
really well done.
The stupid flare element to the trousers.
Just a quick in between, guys. We're nearing 1 a.m. for me. I don't want to go for like another 2 hours, so I just wanted to start wrapping this up a little bit, if it's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So if there's anything that you guys still want to, there's one thing that I might still want to talk about because we mentioned Insurrection and the next and Generations a little bit. Adam and I talked about this. I don't know. Earlier this week, we had a different conversation, but it led to this entire live stream, talking about the quality of the movies. Now, one of the movies that is often maligned as being one of the worst is Nemesis, which is probably one of the Next Generation films that had the most potential of being extremely well done if it had been directed by somebody that actually understood Star Trek. The director, Stuart Barrett, didn't even know how to pronounce Geordi's name, didn't understand the fact that he was blind. He was just not up to speed on Star Trek lore, and I can't help but wonder if Nemesis had been directed by Jonathan Frakes, who didn't get a shot at it because of the failures of Insurrection. Had it been directed by Jonathan Frakes, could Nemesis have been the best Next Generation movie?
Yeah,
100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it's such a great premise. There's a lot. There's so much. You're getting Hardy at the beginning, so he's a great actor, and there's so much to do with it. And it was just like, I think Frakes pulled off First Contact, and they said, "Wow, okay, well we struck gold with this guy, at least from our universe gold. Let's give him Insurrection." And he was on the shortest leash ever, and they're like, "Okay, no, we're gonna get somebody new. We need somebody hot." And it doesn't matter because First Contact, what was it, Ridley Scott and somebody else is supposed to direct, but they didn't understand the universe, so that's why they gave it to Frakes. And basically, they had the right intuition to do that. They're like, okay, these people don't understand Star Trek. Let's give it to Frakes. Hopefully, he does a great job with it. If he fails on First Contact, then it's dead. You know what I mean? To a certain extent, he hits a home run for compartmentally or whatever you want to call it. And then they just basically, when it came to Nemesis, they're like, we're just going to get somebody to make it look cool. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. And it does look cool. If you don't, you know what I mean? You look at it, it looks cool.
It's beautiful.
You know what I mean? But it's good.
I will say one thing. Things happen for a reason. And I truly do believe that. And I think that Nemesis failing enabled Hardy to go back and do independent films, which then made him a better actor in the long run.
Oh yeah,
I mean, he was a baby in that movie, you know, so young. So
it was his. I've just googled it. It was his third film. I knew it was early in his career. He did Black Hawk Down and The Deserter were the only two films he did before it. And in Black Hawk Down, he's in, what is it, like 15 minutes, 10 minutes of the film,
maybe something like that. There's so many little good things in the script of Nemesis that leak into the film that make you understand that the person who wrote the screenplay and the script, really understood Star Trek, especially Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah.
And knew what it was all going to be about. And it would have been such an amazing send-off had it not been completely fucked up by Stuart Baird. And to a degree,
I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't mind the movie. I look through rose-colored glasses enough to I like that movie. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's great, but I don't hate
agreed.
the movie.
I don't mind it. I enjoy watching it every now and then. I also will say that if you hear
the necessary evil,
if you hear some of the stories that Stewart and Spinner, is it Spinner or Spiner? Spinner?
I thought Brent
don't know.
Spiner.
That's Data. Just say Data.
Data. The two.
Were a bit, Data or Data? Which one?
They were a bit. Oh, here's a fun story about that. By the way, I can tell you a fun story about that in an interview with Brent. But I think that I also heard that they were a bit diva-ish, as in the amount of attention that they wanted on their characters, which also didn't really help the process of creating Nemesis. I'm not sure how true that is. Apparently, Brent once mentioned in an interview that they weren't sure if it was Data or Data when they were doing The Next Generation. And the first person, apparently they made a rule, the first person to say the name out loud of a character, an alien name or whatever, that one's going to stick. So the first person who ever said it was Data, and everybody stuck with Data. So
was it
whoever
Patrick
said
Stewart?
I have no idea who said it, but if the first person would have said Data, it would have been Data.
Data is the
English pronunciation.
English pronunciation over Data, which is American, so it makes sense if it would be Patrick Stewart.
I think the first time that we see him is with Jonathan Frakes in The Next Generation. The first time they encounter each other, that's on the holodeck. That's the first scene with him, and I think that's the first scene where we hear his name.
Does he say his name?
I think he does, but I'm not sure anymore. Commander Data. I'm not sure.
What was I going to say, though? What was I going to say? Him, Brent Spiner, or whatever, and Patrick Stewart are heads and shoulders above everybody else as far as the actors. In the fucking Next Generation, it's not even close. Like
Michael Dorn.
Gates is pretty. Oh yeah, Michael Dorn is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie to you, but he's very much. He's not acting like acting. He's acting like a Klingon. You know what I mean? Like he's not like he's not acting, and he does a really good job. I'm not dismissing him, but fucking Maria Sirtis, fucking Gates McFadden, they're horrible.
I think that's also because a lot of these actors came from theater, and theater acting and TV acting are two completely different animals.
Did Gates McFadden not come from soaps?
No, I think Gates McFadden came from theater. That's what I
remember. She not come from like Young and the Bold, or what? Bold and the Beautiful? Where?
I don't know. I thought I was.
LeVar Burton is good, but he's not acting. He's acting like LeVar Burton. You know what I mean? Like if you ever watch any of his stuff, he's the same person. Actually, that was the weirdest moment for me. Is that like I was like I love LeVar Burton from Reading Rainbow to Roots, the whole nine. And when he got a guest spot on Celebrity or guest hosting Jeopardy, I was like, "Oh my God, LeVar Burton's going to be he might be the new host of Jeopardy. He was the worst Jeopardy host I've ever seen in my life. But then, like, you know, like, there's a couple things here to unpack. One, I still kind of upset I never got a movie with Q. You know what I mean? Like, there needed to be a Q.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's probably my biggest like miss here, takeaway, that we never got a Q movie.
He had some banging two-parters though, didn't he, in the series?
Yeah, he's so good, man. He was such a good as that role, the whole nine. The possibilities of like what could happen, because it was basically, again, it was the Marvel multiverse. You could do it.
Picard season 2. Picard season 2.
Yeah.
Picard season
again,
2.
But even then, dude, you know why Picard? I'm going to tell you right now. I watched the first season of Picard. I haven't watched 2 or 3 yet. I have a hard time watching the show because of how old Patrick Stewart is.
Yeah.
It's like watching Joe Biden on America. You know what I mean? It's like but what was it? It was that. Sorry. And then I can't not bring it up, dude. And just because we're talking about Kate McFadden.
Yeah.
Should we do a separate stream about how bad her episode was at the end of Star Trek Next Generation? The one
Are you talking about
falls in love with the ghost?
Can we just no?
No, we need to talk about this stuff, dude.
No, we don't.
That's not even funny how they let that go to the air.
It's quite funny.
We need to forget about Sub Rosa is
like the worst thing that's ever happened to TV. Not Star Trek Next Generation. Like, it's so bad.
But especially, but not even, it's one of the, but especially in a science fiction show that is supposed to claim that it wants to be all about, you know, hard sci-fi. Let's have a ghost fuck a person. Because that's going to make sense.
Not even just a ghost, like an Irish ghost.
A ghost that fucks her grandma. Yeah. A ghost that fucks her grandma is now fucking her. Not even Pornhub can come up with this bullshit.
She gets stuck in a washing machine or anything.
It's on Star Trek. I mean, Gene wasn't around anymore at the time, but he would have been proud of it. That's for fucking sure.
I just can't. Like, and honestly, like, I think she was great in the show. I'm not gonna lie to you, because the way her campy desperateness for everything, whether it's being exacerbated by fucking Wesley Crusher, that's another one. Like, where's Wesley?
She's good in season 3 of Picard.
Yeah. It took her fucking 30 years to learn how to act. Then.
Well,
there you go. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You know,
she plays the mother role very good, even if there's no Wesley.
I think it's very important. That we pick something else that we can. Son of a bitch! I think it's very important that we pick something else to.
Yeah, look how Adam's like, don't spoil it, and he's just dropping bombs.
There's no that anyway. There's something else that we should probably pick to do another of these Simpson spoilers at some point, because there's so much good stuff to talk about, like TV shows, movies, or whatever.
Matt's not a massive Star Wars fan though, and there's a load of Star Wars stuff coming recently.
I think Matt likes Star Wars.
I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars more than I love Star Trek.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I shouldn't say more.
Then we should probably.
I love Star Wars more than I love Star Trek, but I think I love Star Trek: The Next Generation more than Star Wars, if that makes any sense.
Have you ever seen Arrested Development, where she goes, "I love all my children equally, and then I don't care for Job"? It's that kind of.
But it's also like, I'm very much the same thing with Star Wars that I am with Star Trek. I have not watched the Boba Fett shit. I have not watched. You know what I mean? I've skipped.
You watched The Mandalorian?
I've watched the season 1.5 of The Mandalorian.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I just haven't gone back and watched the rest of it. I don't know what happened, what came up, or whatever. But I liked Mandalorian quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't watched I haven't watched like what was the Boba Fett one? What's the other one that came up?
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka. I haven't watched.
Kenobi.
You know what I mean? Like I haven't watched Kenobi. You know, not that I don't want to watch them. I'll probably end up watching them. But
Did you watch any of the animated stuff?
I can't watch cartoons in general. Period. End sentence.
Okay.
Like when I was a kid, sure, but now, like honestly, just animated. I mean, now I'm watching it because I'm a kid. And I'm telling you right now, I'm on a fucking DuckTales heater right now.
New or original?
Oh, original, dude. Who the
Okay.
fuck is talking to? My feels like a hurricane here. But yeah, Duckbird.
Are you gonna go off into Darkwing Duck?
No, I never watched that. I'm a DuckTales
that's-
curious.
What was it? Let's
Like
get
DuckTales.
into this.
Yeah, it's DuckTales combined with Batman. Why would you not watch that?
I don't like animated shit. Just the shit I watched when I was a kid. So it's weird. It's hard for me to watch animated. It really is. I don't know what it is about it. I don't know why it irks me, but I cannot watch animated stuff anymore.
Okay, so
Okay.
we can pick something and we can talk about it, but we should try and do another one of these at some point because we always suck at planning these things. But I think it's
I
worth it
should
'cause-
be home a lot of Fridays moving forward.
Yeah, but I work on Saturdays, so Saturday evenings are better for me than Friday evenings.
Okay.
So you guys know, but yeah. But anyway, we should probably. And I don't think hardly anybody ever watched anything that we just talked about. But it was fun for us, and that's important.
That's
too.
all we care about, baby.
Exactly. So thank you guys for hanging out. I loved it.
Thank you.
And we probably missed half of the things that we wanted to talk about, but that's how these
No,
things
I did the full list. I'm happy.
Very good. I'm happy. So yeah, thanks to everybody who was watching or is going to rewatch. And Matt, be safe. I hope no more earthquakes. Don't shake
Hopefully.
beers. Don't shake
Or
beers.
hopefully just tiny little tremors,
That could be fun. Tiny Tremors. That could be okay. That should be a prequel to Tremors. Tiny Tremors.
Or a peak roll to what's that? What's your name? Stevie Nicks album, right?
Nice. Good call. Okay, guys. See you guys later. Enjoy your evening and your weekend. And bye-bye.